Chapter 846, Grownup uttered by Bexenville. Siamikron Chi was at a loss for words, unable to express his thoughts further. He had exerted great effort to assist Ding Jinshan, but it appeared that his fellow villager was resistant to his help. This distressed Qi, as he realized that Ding Jinshan's negative attitude could cause problems once they arrived at the military camp. Qi felt a tinge of embarrassment, unsure of how to handle the situation. In his desperation, he turned to his fifth brother, Shao Yunduan, seeking guidance. Shao Yunduan felt a sense of satisfaction, recognizing that Qi had matured and was no longer a child. However, instead of directly providing him with an answer, Shao Yunduan chose to steer Qi towards finding his own solution. He wanted Qi to think for himself and arrive at a decision independently. After some contemplation, Qi came to a conclusion. The following day, Shao Yunduan spoke. Once we are both at the military camp, one will take care of Ding Jinshan to the best of my abilities. One will talk to him and assist him as long as I can. However, I won't allow him to become a burden to me. My parents, as well as you, my brothers and sisters, hold greater importance in my life. Ding Jinshan is merely a neighboring villager, and I will inform him of his responsibilities. If he chooses not to listen, then our relationship ends there. Shao Yunduan nodded approvingly, wearing a smile. You're absolutely right. Do your best, but leave the rest to fate. There will be no reason for you to feel regretful. I have entrusted Manager Qin with the task of writing a letter to young Master Xie, requesting him to lend us some military books. Read them and prepare yourself. Xiao Xiaoqi felt a slight pang of surprise. He wasn't particularly fond of reading, but since this idea came from his fifth brother, he knew he had to support it. Reluctantly, he nodded and said, Fine. I will read the books and seek your guidance if I come across anything one don't understand. Shao Yunduan nodded, his smile growing wider. Although Qi had never been fond of reading, Shao Yunduan believed that he could teach him to read well enough to understand the military books. And that was sufficient for Qi's purpose. As the year drew to a close, Ding Jinshan got married. The Shao family refrained from hosting a grand wedding, but as they contemplated Qi's departure, their initial happiness diminished, and they began to dote on Qi. Qi, however, failed to notice any difference. While he missed his home, the anticipation of his upcoming journey and the possibilities it held motivated him greatly. During their journey, Qi once again successfully hunted a wild boar, this time weighing a whopping 150 kilograms. Dozens of people came together to collect the wild boar. Qi and the other villagers had encountered wild boars before, but none as massive as this one. The wild boar was so large that it formed a small mound in the yard. Word spread, attracting many visitors to the village who came to witness the spectacle. They marveled at the long, sharp fangs and the thick, black mane resembling steel needles, finding them intimidating to behold. Yet it was Qi alone who had managed to bring down this formidable beast. Naturally, the villagers praised his archery skills. Qi is truly remarkable with his arrows. Qi's abilities are astounding. This beast leaves me in awe. No wonder his family is thrilled to have him join the army. He's destined for greatness. You're absolutely right. People began to comprehend the underlying reasons behind Qi's family's support for his decision. Ms. Fang sighed, feeling a mix of emotions. She couldn't help but worry. Her child had grown up and formed his own ideas. As his mother, she couldn't simply take control of everything anymore. Chapter 847, Mute uttered by Bexenville. Siamikronem. The most amusing aspect was that Ding Jinshan's family, upon witnessing the wild boar and Qi's consistent success in bringing home prey each year, found themselves reinvigorated with motivation. Ding Jinshan approached Qi, inviting him to accompany him on a mountain trip, and beseeching him to impart his archery skills. Qi accepted the request. However, after merely 3 days, Ding Jinshan relinquished his pursuit. He lacked experience and struggled to locate any targets. When Qi spotted an animal and instructed him to shoot, Ding Jinshan lacked the strength to draw the bowstring. The substantial wild boar was shared among those who assisted in carrying it, as well as the second and third sections of the family. A generous portion was utilized to prepare a variety of dishes to be shared with the neighbors. Nevertheless, There remained over 100 kilograms of meat. Given the surplus smoked meat and sausages this year, there was no need to produce additional supplies. Instead, they could offer them as gifts during the New Year festivities, either before or after. Ms. Fong suggested to Ms. Su that they deliver the excess meat to her family as a gift. Fortunately, Ms. Su readily agreed. Consequently, the next day, both Ms. Fong and Ms. Su returned to their respective families. Each family received 15 kilograms of wild boar meat, along with a few other items. The quantity was quite substantial. Having developed a strong bond and cooperation, the first section of the family and NIS. Yen decided to present Ms. Yan's family with 10 kilograms of the meat as a gift, as they maintained a good relationship and collaborated on various business ventures. After a brief discussion, Qiao Xian decided to share some of the wild boar meat with manager Qin and Ding Erzhu from Zhang village. Later, she took a moment to scoop some shrimp from the pond after inspecting the fields at Zhang village. Qiao Xian had no inclination to offer any gifts to the Qiao family. Likewise, Officer Qiao had no desire to receive any. Since Yang Xiaoni had severed ties with Yang Liang, she felt no obligation to bring any presents for the new year. Her focus was on having Shao Sanling accompany her to visit her parents' tomb and pay respects. Someone happened to discover that the first section of the family had given Ms. Yen additional wild boar meat. This news left her feeling bitter and resentful. Attempting to embarrass Ms. Yen, she put on a fake smile and spoke about it openly. Ms. Yen was taken aback by the sudden revelation. Ms. Niu, equally surprised, inquired, "Ms. Yen, is your second sister-in-law telling the truth?" Ms. Yen, while inwardly sneering, openly admitted, "Yes, it's true. Elder aunt mentioned that my parents should also have a taste of it." "Fourth sister-in-law, you certainly have your admirers, don't you?" Ms. Zhang sneered. "Even our mother doesn't receive such honors." Ms. Yen responded quietly but firmly, "I'm not certain about that, but I often present elder aunt and her family with tofu, yubas and dried tofu. It seems that elder aunt feels the need to reciprocate." Ms. Zhang's words trailed off as Ms. Niu, who was on the verge of anger, fell silent. Indeed, Shao Siling often brought home tofu and yuba from work, much to Ms. Niu's delight. However, Shao Siling consistently emphasized that his in-laws insisted on sharing some with the first section of the family, and some with the third section of the family. While Ms. Niu disliked the idea of sharing, she couldn't covertly claim them for herself when the Yen family emphasized the first section's entitlement. Ultimately, when she already received her share, Ms. Niu decided to let go of her argument. So when the Yen family received wild boar meat from the first section of the family, and requested her daughter-in-law to bring it over, what else could she say? Could she prevent her daughter-in-law from fulfilling her duties? After all, it belonged to her in-laws. Ms. Yen didn't deliberately hide anything from her. Moreover, both of her sons were employed at the Yen family's workshop. While anger brewed within Ms. Niu, she glared at Ms. Zhang and retorted, "Focus on your own meal. You keep causing trouble without knowing the full story. What are you trying to achieve?" Chapter 848. Ms. Zhang's plan uttered by Bexenville. Xiaomicron and Ms. Zhang trembled with anger, her face flushed. Yet, she lowered her head and refrained from uttering a word. Still, her anger burned within her as she cursed Ms. Yen for being sneaky and her mother-in-law for being foolish enough to trust Ms. Yan's flattering words so easily. In her view, Ms. Yen constantly flattered the first section of the family, which resulted in them showering her with treats. However, they never extended such favors to her, making her feel utterly unfairly treated. Ms. Zhang seethed with anger. With the new year approaching and the first section of the family already distributing gifts to the in-laws, she wondered what her mother-in-law's plan was. Reluctant to ask directly, she privately vented her frustrations to her husband. Shao Erlang held disdain for the Zhang family, feeling repulsed by them. Nevertheless, he acknowledged Ms. Zhang's valid point. They should present gifts to their own family during the new year. Otherwise, it would be seen as mistreatment of the daughter-in-law, causing her great humiliation. Shao Erlang mustered the courage to propose the idea to Ms. Niu. However, before he could complete his suggestion, Ms. Niu snapped. "She instructed you to ask me, didn't she? What is she thinking? Gifts for the new year? Absolutely not. Tell her to leave. It's out of the question. Tell her she can either live honestly or leave this family. Shao Erlang panicked, attempting to defend Ms. Zhang, but even his own words sounded unreasonable to his ears. Ultimately, he was scolded by his mother, failing to protect his wife. Ms. Zhang cried, overcome by a mix of sadness and anger. Weren't they supposed to forgive her for what had happened? It was all a lie. No one had forgotten that incident or truly forgiven her. She could sense that her husband still harbored resentment against her whenever the incident was brought up. But it wasn't her fault. Not at all. They were at fault too. Ms. Zhang no longer dared to mention the gifts to her mother, which filled her with guilt. However, Ms. Niu kept her away from anything valuable, and she couldn't even sneak anything out. Out of pity, Shao Erlang managed to give her some extra money. But it was so little, merely 3 qian, barely enough for anything. While Shao Erlang earned a decent income each month, Ms. Niu never shared any money with her. The thought of that irritated Ms. Zhang even more. She believed that since her husband earned the money, she deserved to receive 1/3 of his earnings. Wasn't that how it worked with the first section of the family? They put half of what they earned into shared savings and kept the other half frustrated and enraged. She conceived an idea when she overheard Ms. Niu discussing Shao Miling's upcoming marriage. It was said that Shao Miling's fiancé would visit in a few days. Ms. Zhang contemplated causing some trouble. She had done it before, and was already disliked. If her plan failed, she would be doomed. Ms. Niu would never forgive her again. And that wretched Ms. Yan would only add fuel to the fire. Yet, every time she saw Ms. Niu, Ms. Yan, and the first section of the family, Ms. Zhang couldn't control her anger. Her heart burned with fiery hatred. It was a wretched and miserable feeling. She couldn't sleep, tormented day and night. After contemplating for a while and refining her plan repeatedly, Ms. Zhang finally decided to set her scheme in motion. She found her excuses and explanations prepared, ready to ignite the trouble she had in mind. Chapter 849, Not Deserving, uttered by Bexenville. Xiaomicronem. On that day, Ms. Zhang intercepted Shao Miling when she was in a good mood, and casually mentioned her fiancé's upcoming visit before the new year. Shao Miling blushed upon hearing Yu Xiaomao's name. Ms. Zhang sneered inwardly but sighed dramatically. I've heard about the Yu family, such a pity. Shao Miling grew slightly furious, staring at Ms. Zhang. What do you mean? Ms. Zhang responded, it's quite obvious. Shao Yunduan has become a provincial champion, soon to become an advanced scholar and an official. His father-in-law already holds a government position. He's destined for a promising future. You're his cousin, but you come from a different background. Now your 2 brothers are making money, and your life is going to improve. However, you got engaged too early. If you had started seeking a suitor now, you might have had many suitors vying for your attention. Look at your elder aunt. She's so clever that she hasn't even engaged Taotao yet. She wants to wait until Shao Yunduan becomes an advanced scholar and find her a suitor, perhaps someone from a wealthy family. She's quite calculating, isn't she? But she's Taotao's mother, after all. It's understandable that she's looking out for Taotao's best interests. However, you're also a daughter of the Shao family, and she does nothing to help you. She even allows your mother to get you engaged so early, because she has her own motives, maybe even something sinister, I believe. Shao Miling bit her lip, growing pale, suddenly overwhelmed by jealousy. She had never been fond of Taotao, yet she was going to marry someone of nobility, because of her brother. Perhaps she would become the wife of a young master, leading a carefree life. But what about her? She was marrying into an ordinary farmer's family. She would have to work for the household and labor in the fields. Despite her hard work, she would only receive meager income for the rest of her life. Why, her second sister-in-law had a point. She deserved a better family. Her cousin would become an official next year, while she would be the cousin of an official coming from such different circumstances. How could an ordinary farmer's family be sufficient for her? She had to admit that she wasn't as exceptional as Taotao, but couldn't she at least marry into a wealthy landlord's family? Shao Miling sneered. Why didn't you say this earlier, second sister-in-law? What's the point of mentioning it now? They were already engaged. Shao Miling felt even more miserable. Nice. Zhang let out a slight sneer. She continued. Smiling, it's never too late. You're not married yet, right? You can even break off the engagement. The Yu family doesn't deserve you. You have to think about it and avoid ruining yourself. Shao Smiling hesitated. Breaking off an engagement could tarnish a girl's reputation, and she was well aware of that. Ms.Zhang seemed to have sensed her concerns and wore a knowing smile. Once Shao Yunduan becomes an official, you'll become the cousin of an official with a respectable family background. You'll stand out from other girls whose engagements are broken. When that time comes, no one will blame you for this stain. They'll flock to your door, begging for the chance to court you. Shao Miling's spirits were lifted upon hearing this. Yes, she would indeed be different from other girls whose engagements were broken. The Yu family didn't deserve her, and she was determined to break off the engagement with them. Only foolish people would reject such a well-thought-out plan. She refused to lead a life filled with humiliation and poverty. Chapter 850, Regretful, uttered by Bexenville. Xiaomicron translator. Henyi translations. More importantly, she refused to live in the shadow of Shao Taotao for the rest of her life. She might not have the advantage of having an official brother like Shao Taotao, which was beyond her control. However, she couldn't accept being significantly inferior to Shao Taotao. Couldn't she at least enjoy the leftovers from Shao Taotao's rich meat soup? She simply couldn't settle for rough food when she had the chance for something better. Seeing Shao Miling's apparent interest, Ms.Zhang felt a sense of satisfaction. She continued to flatter Shao Miling, who slowly began to believe that she truly deserved someone better. However, Ms.Zhang soon urged Shao Miling to keep their conversation a secret. You know, I've made some foolish mistakes in the past, and my mother-in-law despises me. If she finds out that I shared this solution with you, she would reject it no matter what. It wouldn't be in your best interest, would it? Shao Miling instantly gave Ms.Zhang a disdainful look upon hearing her confession. She snorted. Of course not. I want nothing to do with you. Being associated with Ms.Zhang would only bring her misfortune. Ms.Zhang felt a surge of annoyance, but she quickly forced an embarrassed smile. You're right, sister. That's how it should be. I understand. Ms.Zhang sneered inwardly. The Yu family would certainly not break off the engagement. Only fools did that. She eagerly anticipated the unfolding drama. If they didn't allow her to live a peaceful life, she wouldn't let them have one either. As expected, Shao Miling went to Ms. Niu and tearfully announced that she no longer wanted to marry into the Yu family. She cried and vented her grievances. Then, Shao Miling revealed to Ms. Niu what she had learned from Ms. Zhang, leaving Ms. Niu filled with regret and hesitation. If only she had known that Shao Yunduan would become the provincial champion, she wouldn't have rushed to find a suitor for Shao Miling so soon. Once Shao Yunduan achieved the title of advanced scholar and obtained an official position, there would surely be numerous better families for them to consider. Nis. Niu felt a deep sense of regret as these thoughts consumed her. She began to question whether the Yu family was truly suitable for them. She also expressed her grievances toward the first section of the family. The first section of the family should have known about Shao Yunduan's talent and potential to become a recommended candidate. Yet, Ms. Fang remained silent. How terrible. And as for their elder brother, all he did was talk without taking any action. He failed to provide them with any updates or information, nearly jeopardizing Miling's future. Nis. Niu pondered over the situation repeatedly, feeling confused and troubled. Eventually, she sought out her second uncle and asked for his advice. Second uncle blamed her, stating that the engagement had already been arranged, and the wedding was scheduled to take place shortly after the new year, or at the latest, by the end of the following year. Breaking off the engagement so easily would tarnish their daughter's reputation. However, second uncle fell silent after hearing Ms. Niu's analysis. After some contemplation, he responded, breaking off the engagement doesn't seem like an easy task. The Yu family is eager to become our in-laws, and they are unlikely to agree to it. Ms. Niu grew increasingly frustrated. Yu Xiaomiao is no longer worthy of being our daughter's spouse. It shouldn't be up to them whether they want to continue or not. We can offer them some money to end the engagement. Although typically frugal with money, Ms. Niu believed that securing a better marital prospect for her daughter was worth the expense. Convinced, second uncle agreed, saying, "All right then, find a trustworthy person who can negotiate with the Yu family regarding the cancellation of the engagement. Just state that the bride and groom's horoscopes do not align, and it is best to call it off." "That sounds reasonable. And what about the money?" Second uncle hesitated when it came to reimbursing the money they had received. "How about 5 liang? Or perhaps 10? No, 8 liang should suffice." Chapter 851. The Yu family's fury uttered by Baxenville. CM 8 liang was already a significant amount for them. Many families struggled to save even 8 liang within a year. Ms. Niu nodded in agreement. It would be wise for them to act sooner rather than later. The next day, Ms. Niu hurriedly set out to find a matchmaker. Ms.Zhang observed her actions and had a vague understanding of her intentions. She silently sneered. The matchmaker had already profited from Ms. Niu and decided to accompany her on the visit, although she found the entire situation ridiculous. As expected, the Yu family reacted with anger. "What are they talking about? Are they joking with us? We've exchanged birth dates and everything matches. They simply don't think we're good enough for them. We won't tolerate being bullied like this. There's no way we're breaking off the engagement. Or I can share this story with others and gauge their opinions." Absolutely. It's non-negotiable. The Yu family was delighted to learn that Shao Yunduan had become a provincial champion. Although Shao Meiling was not Shao Yunduan's sister, she was his cousin after all. If they encountered any difficulties and sought his help, he would never turn them down. Moreover, the martial alliance would greatly benefit their family's reputation. The Yen family also had a prosperous workshop. By establishing a martial connection between the two families, the Yu family might even secure employment at the Yen family's workshop, earning 1 or 2 liang per month for easy work. What a fantastic opportunity! Additionally, the Shao family had established a school in Shouting Village, and their children could attend classes there without paying tuition fees. These were all advantages of the martial alliance. Only foolish individuals would forfeit such an opportunity. In a surprising turn of events, the Shao family decided to call off the engagement, seemingly due to a sudden lack of confidence. But the Yu family was determined not to let that happen. It was an incredibly humiliating situation. The matchmaker, recognizing the unreasonableness of the Yu family, quietly slipped away instead of engaging in an argument. Blamed and scolded by the Yu family, the matchmaker felt irritated. When passing on the message to Ms. Niu, she added some inflammatory remarks, further fueling the fire. Ms. Niu was also seething with anger. She slammed her hand on the table and cursed. "What a foolish family! Unreasonable people! We will never marry Meiling into their household. She would only suffer. We refuse to proceed." Ms. Niu appeared to have found a justifiable excuse to continue with her decision. Taking matters into her own hands, she personally went to the Yu family. Ms. Niu hurled vulgar words at them, even when she offered to repay them with 10 liang. They engaged in a heated argument that eventually led to a complete dissolution of the engagement. The Yu family was the aggrieved party, but they feared that if Ms. Niu sought help from the esteemed Shao, they would be powerless to intervene. To gain sympathy and support, they shared their ordeal with others. The Shao family's arrogance knew no bounds. Such bullying was unprecedented in their eyes. After they had already exchanged birth dates, they suddenly decided to call off the engagement. The news of this development quickly spread throughout Shouting Village, reaching every household. Ms. Fong expressed her disbelief, cursing. "What has gotten into these two? How could they act so unethically? They don't seem to care about the reputation of either the Yu family or their own daughter." Qiao Xian let out a sigh, sharing the sentiment. No respectable family would be willing to establish a marital connection with them now, given their reputation for snobbishness. Even if there were wealthy families interested in marrying Shao Meiling, she might end up as a concubine or face bullying after the marriage, considering the circumstances. Chapter 852. Saving People uttered by Baxenville. CM Translator. Henyi translations. Indeed, the intricacies of a marriage are often invisible to those outside of it. Only the couple themselves truly understand what goes on within their relationship. Each person must live their own life, making choices that are best for them. In light of these events, Ms. Fang's concern for Taotao grew. Qiao reassured her with a smile. Don't worry, Mom. We come from different sections of the family. If anyone assumes we are the same, we don't need to consider such a suitor. Trust me, Taotao will surely marry a good man. Ms. Fang found some solace in these words. However, Ms. Niu did not anticipate that the Yu family would spread the news, causing her immense anger. She vented her frustration through vehement curses at home. Shao Meiling was consumed by anger, constantly shedding tears within the confines of her home. Ms. Niu and second uncle sought help from Ms. Fang and elder uncle. Brother, sister-in-law, you must help us. Ms. Niu's tearful plea only fueled Ms. Fang's fury. What right do you have to cry? This is all your own fault. If you didn't want to go through with the marriage, you shouldn't have arranged it in the first place. No one forced you into this. You exchanged birth dates and even set a wedding date. And now you break it off. It's highly unethical. The Yu family is a good family that has been humiliated. Of course, they are upset. Wouldn't you be upset in their position? Elle didn't want to, but it's all your fault. Ms. Niu snapped at Ms. Fang. If you had informed us that Yunduan would achieve such success, we wouldn't have arranged a marriage for Meiling. But you purposely concealed the truth, and you don't even want Taotao to find a suitor. You must have done that intentionally. Ms. Fang was infuriated by these accusations. Whether Yunduan would become a recommended man was uncertain for everyone. What nonsense are you spouting? It's utterly ridiculous. And I haven't found a suitor for Taotao because I don't think she should get married right now. How is that even relevant? Any more nonsense like this, and I'll slap it right across your face. Ms. Niu's eyes widened, clearly unconvinced, but she chose not to engage in further argument. Times had changed. After Shao Yunduan became the provincial champion, the second branch of the family was no longer as confrontational as before. They might still be bothersome, but not as forceful. However, second uncle chimed in. Elder sister-in-law, let it go. It's already over. But you must help Meiling, or her life will be ruined. Yes, that's exactly what one mean. The Yu family is nothing but bullies. They're spreading these stories just to tarnish Meiling's reputation. They were never a suitable match anyway. Absolutely true. Seeing the couple agree with each other in a reasonable manner, Ms. Fang was too exhausted to make any further complaints. The room fell into a heavy silence. Even eldest uncle, who had always held his brothers in high regard, was visibly flushed with anger. Clearly, the blame rested with the second branch of the family. Ms. Fang regarded them with disdain. So, your daughter is the only one with a reputation to protect? What about their son? You exchanged birth dates, and the wedding date was about to be finalized. And now, you want to break off the engagement? How can that be considered reasonable? Furthermore, they seem to be expecting Shao Yunduan to come to their defense, as if he held some influence. Ms. Fang retorted. You initiated the engagement, so it's your responsibility. You have to resolve the matter with the Yu family yourselves. We can't be of any assistance. And neither can Yunduan. What do you expect from him? To use his position to bully the weak? He would never engage in such unethical behavior. Chapter 853. Unethical, uttered by Grownup. CM eldest uncle felt a sense of pity for Shao Meiling, unaware that Ms.Zhang had influenced her with the idea. He had intended to interject, but halted upon hearing Ms. Fang's words. It was clear that this couple had come to their doorstep not seeking the help of ordinary people like him and Ms. Fang, but rather aiming for Yunduan's assistance. As he contemplated this, eldest uncle grew increasingly uneasy, realizing that they were trying to manipulate Yunduan into using his limited authority to retaliate against the other family. This deeply troubled him. Such behavior was unquestionably unethical. That's not what we mean. Second uncle, and Ms. Niu didn't dare to admit it. This marriage isn't a good match, and we have every right to call it off. We even offered to pay them back 10 liang, but they still refused to let go. Now the whole situation has become public, and Meiling will suffer greatly if she marries into that family. Elder brother, elder sister-in-law, you've seen Meiling grow up. You can't just abandon her like this, can you? Ms. Fang sneered. But you are the ones who created this mess. It's utterly unreasonable to expect us to take over and clean it up. Elder uncle carefully pondered the situation before speaking up. Ms. Fang, let's calm ourselves down. There's no use complaining when things have already reached this point. We need to come up with a solution to prevent Miling's life from being ruined. True, elder brother is right. Nice. Niao and second uncle nodded in agreement. Ms. Fang sneered inwardly, convinced that Miling's life was already in ruins. If only Miling had the capacity to comprehend it, she would have despised her parents for their actions. Ms. Fang chimed in. What if Ms. Qiao and I accompany you to the Yu family and help you reconcile, so that the two families can reunite? No, that wouldn't work. Why not? Miling will be subjected to bullying in such a situation. Then let the Yu family make a promise. Yunduan should be able to help you. We can all live in peace, and if anyone bullies Miling and the news reaches us, we won't forgive them for it. Elder uncle's eyes lit up and he added, I think it's a good idea. Whenever you have the opportunity, ask Miling how she feels about it. We will seek justice for any girls who are bullied, within our family of course. If Miling faces any mistreatment, Yunduan can step in. What do you think, brother and sister-in-law? I believe it's a reasonable solution. The Yu family isn't foolish enough to intentionally harm Miling. Ms. Niao and second uncle exchanged a bewildered glance with each other. This wasn't what they had intended. They had wanted to break off the engagement. However, Ms. Fang had already spoken resolutely, and elder uncle had agreed. Shao Yunduan would likely heed his parents' advice as well. Ms. Niao and second uncle gritted their teeth in anger, their words failing them. Elder brother and elder sister-in-law are so heartless. They must have deliberately orchestrated this. They don't want a bright future for Miling. This is all your fault. Why did you rush into making a decision about Miling's engagement? Damn you. Miling is no longer a child. She's old enough to have suitors. I had no idea that Yunduan would become a provincial champion, or hold an official position. If I had known, one would have called off the engagement. It's all because of elder sister-in-law concealing everything from us. Chapter 854. Braver uttered by Bexenville. CM Ms. Niao and second uncle sighed repeatedly, feeling distressed and helpless. Shao Miling, on the other hand, was seething with anger and disappointment upon hearing the outcome. She cried incessantly and threw tantrums, declaring that she would rather die than marry into the Yu family. She couldn't bear to see Shao Taotao living a better life than her. Anaya. Niao and second uncle were somewhat swayed by their daughter's intense reaction. Their already negative opinion of the marriage worsened as they witnessed her emotional turmoil. But if the first section of the family refused to offer any assistance, what options did they have? The couple frowned, constantly mulling over the dire situation. Meanwhile, Ms.Zhang couldn't help but sneer inwardly, reveling in the chaos that had befallen the family, thanks to her cunning manipulation. Feeling a surge of arrogance, she concluded that her mother-in-law's family was utterly foolish, oblivious to being deceived. Encouraged by her perceived superiority, Ms. Zhang grew bolder and conceived another idea. The Yu family doesn't want to break off the engagement because they see our family as promising, hoping to gain benefits from us. But you are fifth cousin's cousin, and Taotao is his real sister. If he could marry Taotao, I believe the Yu family would gladly accept. What are you implying? Do you think I'm inferior to Taotao? Shao Miling snapped. Ms. Zhang said. Absolutely not. You've misunderstood me. One believe you are far superior to Taotao. What I meant was that the Yu family would see marrying Taotao as a more advantageous arrangement for them, as they could benefit more from it. Shao Miling snorted, clearly displeased with the situation. However, she reluctantly admitted that Ms. Zhang's assessment had some truth to it. But don't mock us any further. Elder Aunt would never allow Taotao to marry into the Yu family. They aren't that kind-hearted. They would never allow Taotao to replace her as the bride. She had never even entertained the thought. A sinister smile crept across Ms. Zhang's face as she sneered. But what if that man from the Yu family forces something upon Taotao, and Taotao has no choice but to marry him? Shao Miling was taken aback, her eyes widening with curiosity. Tell me more. Ms. Zhang spoke in a mysterious tone. Yu Xiaomiao is coming here to bring us gifts, right? Let's gather the first section of the family and the third section of the family for a dinner. And when they have some drinks. Shao Meiling was surprised, a newfound understanding dawning upon her. I see. Enlighten me further. That seemed like a viable solution. Since the first section of the family had refused to help them and had effectively ruined her life, Shao Meiling felt no remorse towards them. She warned Ms. Zhang, never speak a word about this to anyone ever. Shao Meiling understood that it was not an honorable plan to be proud of, and it should remain a secret. Ms. Zhang agreed, knowing that discretion was crucial. Shao Meiling approached Ms. Niu with a sense of satisfaction, her confidence bolstered. Ms. Niu was taken aback upon hearing Shao Meiling's idea, but as she contemplated the situation, she realized something profound. It was a brilliant idea. Wasn't it too harsh on Taotao? Well, Ms. Fong had been cruel to them first, and they were merely reciprocating. The first section of the family had started it, and now the second section of the family would return the favor. Since Ms. Fong had believed that the Yu family was a suitable match, why not have Taotao marry into the Yu family? It would be a perfect fit, wouldn't it? Ms. Niu pondered over the idea, considering the best course of action. They needed a well-thought-out plan to ensure they wouldn't be caught by the first section of the family. Every detail had to be carefully executed, leaving no traces behind. Furthermore, they needed to establish a cooperative relationship with the Yu family, ensuring that Yu Xiaomiao would be on board with their plan. Ms. Niu had no doubts about the outcome. The Yu family would not be foolish enough to reject a marriage proposal for Shao Yenduan's younger sister. Chapter 855. The Invitation uttered by Bexenville. The first section of the family had expected the second section of the family to continue making a fuss about the situation, but to their surprise, it abruptly stopped. They let out a collective sigh of relief, grateful for the respite. Ms. Fong voiced her opinion. I'll think that they must have realized that it is an unreasonable thing, and we won't help them. Indeed, it seemed that the second section of the family had come to the same conclusion. Ms. Niu and second uncle approached the first section of the family once again, wearing guilty expressions and suggesting that they could proceed with marrying Shao Meiling off to the Yu family instead. Recognizing that they were all part of the same family, the first section of the family agreed readily, promising to support them if the Yu family were to mistreat Shao Meiling. Feeling reassured, the second section of the family then mentioned that Yu Xiaomiao would deliver the presents in 3 days, and invited the entire family to join them for dinner. The purpose was to showcase the unity within the family, and to instill some fear in the Yu family, preventing them from seeking revenge. Both Ms. Fong and eldest uncle agreed wholeheartedly. With that, Ms. Niu and second uncle left with happiness in their hearts. Young Xiaoni couldn't help but wear a smile as she addressed Qiao Xian. Did I misunderstand? Are second aunt-in-law and second uncle inviting the entire family for dinner? I thought it would only be our parents, fifth sister-in-law, and fifth brother. Qiao Xian chuckled, acknowledging that her third sister-in-law had a point. The second section of the family wasn't known for their generosity, so it was unexpected for them to invite the entire family instead of just the key members. Considering the first section of the family had a large number of people, including children, it would certainly be a bustling affair. Qiao Xian jokingly remarked, maybe second aunt-in-law and second uncle are feeling quite guilty and want as many of us as possible to support them when facing the Yu family. The idea sounded plausible to both of them. Yang Xiaoni sighed and nodded in agreement, saying, indeed, Meiling is their daughter, and they want to ensure her future happiness. For the sake of their daughter's happiness, attending one dinner was a small price to pay. If it weren't for the intervention of someone from the Yu family approaching Ms. Fong and Shao Yinduan, the first section of the family would have held on to their belief all along. Meanwhile, at the Yu family residence, Ms. Niu made a secret visit to her future in-laws and shared her plan. Mrs. Yu was persuaded and agreed to the arrangement. As long as they executed the plan effectively, it was crucial for Yu Xiaomiao to cooperate. He didn't need to know the details, and he wouldn't face any blame. They were well aware of the advantages that came with marrying the sister of an official. Nobody in the village would dare offend them, and the official would always prioritize the well-being of his sister. While the Yu family wasn't inherently greedy, they wouldn't pass up on such an opportunity for financial gain. Upon receiving the Yu family's assurance, Ms. Niu felt elated. It was an irresistible temptation that no one could refuse. Officials needed to maintain strong connections with other influential families. After Taotao's marriage, Shao Yunduan would no longer have a sister, and he would need to forge a marital alliance with another family. Miling was the most suitable candidate for him to consider. Chapter 856. Disorganization uttered by Bexenville. Maybe Miling could marry into an official's family and become the wife of an official. This idea further fueled Ms. Niu's determination. She was determined to make it happen no matter what. However, when Mrs. Yu shared the plan with her husband and Yu Xiaomiao, they exchanged a glance and immediately dismissed the idea. You even criticized Mrs. Yu for entertaining such a ridiculous notion. Ms. Niu's idea is preposterous. Why are you even considering it? Provincial champion Shao is a highly intelligent individual who can see through such schemes. Regardless of whether the plan succeeds or not, we would antagonize many people. The second section of the family is his own family, and he wouldn't target them. But we are outsiders. Have you thought about the consequences? Mrs. Yu remained unconvinced. But Shao Taotao will be our daughter-in-law, and we are family as well. The first section of the family wouldn't harm their own daughter. We're not greedy people. We just want to live a decent life, that's all. Yu Xiaomiao sneered. Mom, he is the provincial champion and possesses various means to deal with us. If they seek revenge by ruining our siblings, do you have any control over that? The Yu family could never bear such consequences. Mrs. Yes' expression changed. No, it's impossible. We will be relatives by that time, and they would never stoop so low. Of course they would. Have you not heard what happened to the Zhao family? Mrs. Yu fell silent, her face turning pale. Indeed, she was well aware of the circumstances surrounding the Zhao family. Not everyone was oblivious to the truth. Young Master Zhao had some inkling about the first section of the Shao family's daughter-in-law, and soon after, they mysteriously vanished. People began to connect the dots and realized that there must have been some connection. The downfall of the Zhao family was evident. They deserved punishment, but the extent of the retribution seemed excessive. No one dared to question the Shao family's actions. No one dared to voice their approval either. Mrs. Yu remained stubborn, speaking through gritted teeth. But Taotao will be our daughter-in-law, and if they dare lay a finger on my son and daughter, I will make sure their daughter learns a lesson. It's only fair, as one would be her mother-in-law. Yu Xiaomiao sneered even more, his anger evident in his voice. You're really willing to entertain that thought, Mom? If you retaliate against their daughter, they could take it out on me. They might even divorce us. Provincial champion Shao is on the path to becoming an official, and even if he doesn't, the Shao family has many influential members who would never allow their sister to be mistreated. Mrs. Yu opened her mouth to respond, but found herself at a loss for words. It was true in reality. She was merely playing with empty threats. She lacked the courage to actually confront anyone. Mr. Yes' glare intensified. Now you realize how wrong you were, don't you? How could you agree to such a plan? I never knew you could be like this. Mrs. Yu felt her heart shatter, but found herself unable to respond. She murmured, but I already made a promise to Ms. Niu. Father and son continued to glare at her, their disappointment evident. She gathered her courage and straightened her back. Why are you glaring at me like that? I'm doing this for Xiaomiao and for the sake of our family. Mr. Yu furrowed his brow, contemplating that once Xiaomiao got married, they should live separately. The two sons should reside in different places. They would live with their eldest son, whose wife would be in charge. Mrs. Yu would have no authority and would simply take care of her grandson and do some household chores. That would be her role. She couldn't be in a position of authority, or it would lead to trouble. Yu Xiaomiao interjected. That's your problem. I'm going to the shouting village to inform the first section of the family about this. Chapter 857. Truth uttered by Bexenville. What? No way. But that's how it should be. I'll be so humiliated. Near. You shouted in anger. You talk about humiliation? Xiaomiao is right. We should inform provincial champion Shao about this. It's their family matter, and we shouldn't interfere. We can break off the engagement and demand compensation of no less than 10 liang. Not a penny less. They didn't like the way things had turned out, but it was pointless to continue. They could gain a new daughter-in-law with the compensation. However, Yu Xiaomiao had his own plan. Well, see, Mr. Yu understood his child. He had his own ideas, so he didn't press the matter further. Besides, he didn't want to discuss it any longer. His son could do as he pleased, as long as he didn't blame his parents for it. It was good that he wasn't as confused as his mother, so he didn't go overboard. As evening fell, Yu Xiaomiao went to the first section of the Shao family. Recognizing him, Ms. Fong put on a friendly expression and invited him inside. Ms. Fong felt a twinge of guilt about the humiliation caused by the second section of the family. Yu Xiaomiao mentioned that he had a few private words to speak with provincial champion Shao, which should remain between them. Ms. Fong was puzzled, but she still went to ask Shao Yunduan. Shao Yunduan invited Yu Xiaomiao to join him in the study, where Qiao Xian was already present. As Ms. Fong was about to leave, Yu Xiaomiao smiled at her and gestured for her to stay. It was an awkward and embarrassing situation, and Yu Xiaomiao stumbled over the story. Ms. Fang's anger flared up as she snapped. How dare she? How dare she? She intends to frame Taotao. She's insane. I'll make sure she pays for this. Qiao Xian intervened. Mom, don't get worked up. She won't succeed. She should be the one feeling angry, not us. I knew it. How could she suddenly be so generous and invite us all to dinner? She wants to carry out her plan when there are many people present. Qiao Xian began to piece it all together. It had been confusing for them as well. No wonder they say that when rules are broken, something is amiss. Yu Xiaomiao soon finished explaining the story. I apologize for my mother's confusion. My father and I didn't think it was a good idea at all. That's why we decided to inform you about this. Perhaps it's better this way. I'm sorry. Ms. Fang's gratitude towards Yu Xiaomiao grew. She said, We are indebted to you. If not for your revelation, we would have been framed. I apologize and thank you. That's what we should do. All right then. I should be on my way. As it was getting late, Ms. Fong and Shao Yunduan escorted Yu Xiaomiao out. Upon returning to the study, Ms. Fong was seething with anger, wishing she could confront Ms. Niu right away. Yunduan, Qiao Xian, what do you think? Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan exchanged glances, and after a moment, Shao Yunduan spoke up. We have only heard Yu Xiaomiao's account, and we cannot be certain of the truth. Ms. Fong was taken aback, her brows furrowing. I don't believe he is lying. It's just like something your second aunt-in-law would do. Yu Xiaomiao's story brought back so many memories for her. Qiao Xian explained with a smile. Mom, my husband means that regardless of our intentions, we shouldn't blindly trust the words of one person. We should investigate and gather more information, or we might easily fall victim to framing. Chapter 858. Waiting uttered by Bexenville. Ms. Fong comprehended the message. I'll understand. You're advising me not to act impulsively. She knew Ms. Niu's character, but what if someone else was involved? If she blindly believed that person and acted rashly, she could have made a grave mistake. Things were different now. She may have made mistakes in the past, but what if her son was implicated this time? Qiao Xian smiled. Mom, you're so perceptive. It's just a gentle reminder. Ms. Fong sighed, a smile forming on her face. Then remind me as much as you can. I'll keep them all in mind. Shao Yunduan glanced at Qiao Xian with a tender expression. Having a wife who understood him and stood by his side brought him a happiness he couldn't find elsewhere. After a moment, Ms. Fong clenched her teeth. But I believe this is exactly what your second aunt-in-law would do. Let's catch her in the act, suggested Shao Yunduan. Confronting her now wouldn't yield any admission. We have no evidence. She would likely accuse Yu Xiaomiao of harboring resentment over the broken engagement and attempting to frame her. It would only complicate matters further. Ms. Fong felt a wave of enlightenment. That's absolutely true. Ms. Niu's actions were indeed predictable. All right, then let's catch her in the act. Should we inform Taotao about this, so she can be prepared? Xiao Yunduan and Qiao Xian exchanged a glance, and Xiao Yunduan nodded. Yes, we should let her know. We'll discuss the plan further tomorrow. But let's keep this information from Dad for now. Xiao Yunduan couldn't rely on his father, who often seemed oblivious to such matters. Ms. Fong chuckled. Of course not. He would never believe us. Head go console the second section of the family, fearing they might be wrongly accused. Haha. Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan exchanged a bemused look as Ms. Fong left the room. Xiao Yunduan's expression turned serious as he sighed, massaging his forehead. Things would have been much simpler if he hadn't decided to pursue a career as an official. He now had to consider numerous factors, and it was hard to determine if his family might become the target of some conspiracy. Thankfully, his mother possessed a clear mind. Qiao Xian sighed. Yu Xiaomiao seems like a level-headed person. Xiao Meiling is fortunate to marry him, and it's surprising that the second aunt-in-law refuses to believe it. Xiao Yunduan smiled. I'm not sure what makes her so confident. Qiao Xian pondered for a moment and smiled as he asked. Yu Xiaomiao is quite intriguing. I believe he still wants to marry Meiling. What do you think? Xiao Yunduan nodded, a grin forming on his face. It would be ideal if he marries Xiao Meiling. He seems capable of keeping her in check. As cousins from the second and first sections of the family, Xiao Meiling was known for her strong-willed and outspoken nature. Once she was married, it would be challenging to rein her in. If someone were to try and manipulate her, she might even become a force to be reckoned with. If her husband possessed the ability to manage her and handle situations wisely, it would make things much smoother. Otherwise, they could face considerable trouble in the future. When that time came, it might not be possible for the first section of the family to remain uninvolved. Xiao Yunduan was delighted to assist Xiao Meiling in marrying into the Yu family, rather than allowing her to choose an uncertain partner. The second aunt-in-law opposed this potential son-in-law, hoping that Taotao would take over instead. However, Xiao Yunduan had no intention of allowing that to happen. He wanted to show her the consequences of her actions, to make her understand the meaning of reaping what you sow. They engaged in a lengthy discussion about the plan before finally retiring for the night. Chapter 859. Waiting uttered by Bexenville. CM. The anticipated day arrived when Yu Xiaomiao came to present the gift. To ensure the success of their plan, the second section of the family spared no expense. They had 2 plump chickens slaughtered, braised 2 fish, and procured a variety of meat. They even had Xiao Siling bring tofu, yubas, and dried tofu from the Yen family the day before. Ms. Yen, unaware of the scheme, interpreted her mother-in-law's generous gesture of inviting the first and third sections of the family for dinner as a sign that they had reconsidered and accepted the marriage. Thus she actively offered her assistance. Only Ms. Zhang's eyes gleamed with excitement, as if her heart was leaping with anticipation. She couldn't wait to witness the spectacle unfold. Yu Xiaomiao arrived at 10 in the morning, and Ms. Niu, along with second uncle, who still believed he was on their side, greeted him joyfully. Second uncle pulled him aside, speaking in a hushed and smiling voice. You need to pretend to be drunk, but not actually drunk. I'll have the brothers guide you to the wing room. Once the girl is there, you know what to do. Just remember not to go overboard. It was all part of the show, not a genuine move. Taotao would be defenseless if she ended up in the same room as Yu Xiaomiao. Second uncle certainly didn't want Yu Xiaomiao to make any real advances towards Taotao under his roof. It wouldn't bode well for his reputation. Yu Xiaomiao chuckled inwardly, then turned to his future father-in-law, nodding earnestly. But he couldn't help but wonder who would be accompanying him in the room. Ms. Niu instructed her 2 daughters-in-law to prepare 2 tables filled with delicious food, and gathered the entire family together. Yang Xiaoni openly praised Ms. Niu for her generosity, which made Ms. Niu feel uneasy. Generous? She was coerced into this. She had no desire to do any of it. Xiao Luleng was absent. Third uncle claimed he was too busy studying and couldn't join for lunch. NIS. Niu and second uncle had invited so many people with the intention of creating chaos, making it easier to execute their plan. They also wanted witnesses to avoid any potential denials. Xiao Lulang's absence didn't concern them. Eldest uncle expressed great concern for Xiao Lulang, saying emotionally, "Lulang is working so hard now. Please take care of him, and make sure he doesn't overexert himself." Ms. Ma sighed, feeling worried. She refrained from boasting about her son as she had done before. Third uncle beamed with pride. "Lulang must have thought it through. I'm confident he'll make it next year. He's ambitious and he promises us a future filled with happiness as he pursues his path to becoming an official." The table was set with various dishes, and Xiao Xiaoji Taotao and Ms.Zhang enjoyed their meal in the kitchen with Xiao Meiling, while the rest of the family gathered around the table in the hall. The table was filled with an abundance of dishes, and 2 jars of wine were prepared. Second uncle opened the wine and invited everyone to join in the drinking. Ms. Fang discreetly glanced at Ms. Niu, who was far from stingy when it came to pouring the wine. She encouraged everyone to drink as much as they could. Ms. Fang cursed inwardly. That woman only showed generosity when she had ulterior motives. If given the chance, she would give her a thorough scolding. Yu Xiaomiao appeared to be heavily intoxicated as he reached the halfway mark. His face had turned red, and it was evident that he was truly drunk. Chapter 860. Coldness uttered by Baxenville. CM third uncle playfully teased second uncle. "Looks like your son-in-law has a low alcohol tolerance. He's already drunk after just a little wine. People have different drinking capacities. He's drunk, so he needs some rest. We can continue celebrating," second uncle replied with a smile. He then turned to Xiao Sanlang and said, "Xiao Sanlang, help Yu Xiaomiao to the wing room with Qi for some rest." Xiao Sanlang and Qi were unaware of the situation but agreed to assist, helping Yu Xiaomiao up from his seat. Ms. Niu stood up as well. "I'll guide you in. Help him." Once Yu Xiaomiao was settled, Xiao Sanlang and Qi returned to the hall, and Ms. Niu followed closely behind. She exchanged a few words in the kitchen, not to share any important information, but to provide Xiao Meiling and Ms. Zhang with some subtle cues. Ms. Niu walked briskly, feeling a sense of anticipation. She was eager to witness the unfolding drama. After completing her task, she planned to find an excellent match for her own daughter, making Taotao envious for the rest of her life. Xiao Meiling and Ms. Zhang exchanged a knowing glance and couldn't help but feel pleased. Soon they finished their meal. Xiao Meiling mentioned that she had something to discuss privately with Taotao. Xiao Xiaoji felt slightly displeased being left alone. However, with Xiao Meiling's impending marriage, the cousins decided to set aside any grievances during this joyous occasion. So Taotao followed Xiao Meiling to another location. Taotao's heart sank, overcome by a chilling sense of unease. If her mother hadn't given her a warning beforehand, she would have been completely unprepared for this situation. Xiao Meiling glanced at Ms. Zhang as she led Taotao to the wing room, wearing a smile. "I left my sewing needles and thread inside the room. Can you help me find them?" Taotao gave her a complex look, a mixture of emotions swirling within her. Deep down, she wished that Xiao Meiling would feel remorse at this final moment. Xiao Meiling sensed the intensity of Taotao's gaze, feeling a discomforting sensation. However, she quickly dismissed the feeling. Taotao's palms grew clammy with sweat. Once inside the wing room, Xiao Meiling pretended to search for something and asked Taotao for assistance. Soon, Ms. Zhang called Xiao Meiling out of the room, and Xiao Meiling instructed Taotao to continue searching while she stepped away momentarily. The two women exchanged a conniving grin before parting ways. Xiao Meiling made her way back to the room, pretending to be oblivious to everything that was about to unfold. Meanwhile, Ms. Zhang went to relay the message to Nis. Niu. Once Ms. Niu received the message, she would know that everything had been set in motion. Inside the wing room, Yu Xiaomiao's task was to embrace Taotao, unaware that she was not Xiao Meiling. He wouldn't be held accountable for his actions. Ms. Niu's face lit up with a bright smile upon seeing Ms. Zhang. She turned to Xiao Sanlang and said, "Sanlang, could you please check on Xiaomiao? I'm feeling a little concerned." She had already gone after the food was finished. The first section of the family needed to witness this firsthand. As soon as Shao Sanlang raised his voice, they would all rush in that direction. Shao Sanlang agreed, setting his chopsticks down and leaving the table. Soon a scream echoed through the air. What's happening here? What's going on? What happened to Sanlang? Let's all go and see. Nis. Niu hurriedly dashed out of the hall. Ms. Qiao, Xiao Yunduan and Ms. Fang, who were privy to the plan, could only shake their heads in disbelief. Nis. Niu was certainly driven by her own motivation. Ms. Fang sneered. Let's all go and have a look. Chapter 861. Not Taotao uttered by Bexenville. Ms. Niu, filled with confidence, continued to shout before entering the room. Oh Taotao! What are you doing here? Oh my god! What is happening? What should we do? Second uncle followed suit. What? Taotao! Why is Taotao in Xiaomao's room? Ms. Niu exclaimed. Nobody knows what's going on. Oh my god! Ms. Fang, aware of the truth, sneered at Ms. Niu, her eyes burning with anger, wishing she could slap her across the face. Qiao Xian struggled to contain her laughter, barely holding it in. Xiao Yunduan stood calmly by her side, enjoying the spectacle. Eldest uncle was on the verge of fainting. What? Taotao. He rushed forward and opened his eyes, only to be taken aback. Wait a minute. The girl sitting on the floor in the intoxicated Yu Xiaomao's arms was not Taotao at all. It was Myling. But hearing his brother and sister-in-law's persistent calls, eldest uncle began to doubt himself. He rubbed his eyes and looked closely. He wasn't mistaken. He could unmistakably recognize his own daughter. What? Brother and sister-in-law, are you sure? This is Myling. Ms. Fang burst into laughter and turned to Ms. Niu saying, honestly, second sister-in-law, instead of just shouting, open your eyes and see who is in your son-in-law's arms. It's Myling. Why do you keep shouting Taotao? What's the meaning of this? Ms. Fang raised her eyebrows and spoke furiously. Why did you involve Taotao in this? Are you trying to ruin Taotao's reputation? Ms. Niu and second uncle were taken aback, their faces filled with shock. They looked in the direction pointed out and stood there, dumbfounded. That's Myling. Why Myling? What is happening? Ms. Niu, pulling Yu Xiaomiao away, snapped at Ms.Zhang and Ms. Yan. Why are you just standing there? Help her up. What is happening? It's your fault. Ms. Fang sneered and spoke fiercely. Why did you think it was Taotao? Ms. Niu and second uncle were bewildered. Ms. Niu stammered, I was mistaken. How coincidental, Xiao Yunduan calmly remarked. Both of you were mistaken. Second uncle forced a smile. Heard your second aunt-in-law shouting Taotao, so I thought, oh really? So you actually believed it was Taotao? Ms. Fang sneered. Second uncle was taken aback. That can't be true, Ms. Fang said proudly. It seems that Myling truly loves her suitor. Otherwise, she wouldn't have come to see her fiancé in person. But why did she faint? It seems like a destined marriage. Ms. Niu felt as if she were about to collapse. She glared at Ms. Fang, but couldn't do anything about it. She had to endure all the humiliation coming from Ms. Fang. Ms. Fang gave her a disdainful look, snorted with irony and said, I'm sure you have a lot to deal with right now, so I'll leave you to it. Goodbye. Let's go, old man. Ms. Fang pulled elder uncle out of the room. As they left, elder uncle was about to say something. He also sensed that something was amiss here, but he couldn't bring himself to ask what it was. Chapter 862. Problem uttered by Bexenville. Ms. Fang and elder uncle departed, followed by Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan, who exchanged a knowing glance before leaving as well. Once they were gone, Ms. Niu snapped at Ms. Yan. Go and join the first section of the family. Erlang and Xiling, both of you leave us. Ms. Yan was taken aback by her mother-in-law's anger, but understood that it was best to comply. She nodded and left the room. Mom. Xiao Erlang and Xiao Xiling hesitated, reluctant to leave. They were displeased with Yu Xiaomao's behavior, and were curious about why Myling was present and had fainted. It all seemed highly peculiar, and they wanted answers. However, second uncle grew impatient. Just get out of here. Stop murmuring. The two brothers were startled but decided it was best to leave. They remained silent and exited the room, knowing that their parents would uncover the truth eventually. Their presence would be of little use at the moment. Once the unrelated individuals had departed, Ms. Niu and second uncle turned to Yu Xiaomiao, their faces filled with anger. What are you doing here? What happened? What did you just do? Why is Miling here? Where is Taotao? She was supposed to be here. Ms. Niu exclaimed, frustration evident in her voice. Yu Xiaomiao had sobered up and spoke in a more composed manner. How was I supposed to know? You instructed me to pretend to be drunk, and you would take care of the rest. You assured me that Taotao would be brought here, so that one would be found in the same room with her, forcing her into marriage with me. But instead, it was Miling who ended up here. I'm just as confused as you are. Stop arguing. Second uncle interjected, raising his voice. You were only pretending to be drunk. Miling couldn't have arrived here on her own. That's right, you were just pretending. Ms. Niu added. Yu Xiaomiao shouted in frustration. No, I wasn't. I may not have been truly drunk, but my head was spinning. Someone opened the door, and I didn't open my eyes immediately. When I finally did, I saw Miling on the floor. It startled me, so I got off the bed to check on her. Then Shao Sanlang arrived, followed by all of you. The room was filled with tension as they tried to make sense of the situation and understand how Miling had ended up in that room instead of Taotao. Second uncle and Ms. Niu were filled with a mixture of anger and regret, unable to find the right words to express their emotions. Realizing that Miling was awake, Yu Xiaomiao sneered inwardly but decided to suggest, perhaps we can ask Miling herself what happened. Shao Miling was lying in the bed where Yu Xiaomiao had been pretending to sleep. Given their engagement, it was not inappropriate for them to be in the same room. Ms. Niu glared at Yu Xiaomiao and shook Shao Miling to wake her up. Shao Miling slowly opened her eyes, looking confused. What happened to me? Where am I? Mom, where is Taotao? What happened to her? I bet she's crying, isn't she? Haha. Her eyes sparkled with a mix of anxiety and cunningness. Chapter 863. Revenge uttered by Bexenville. Ms. Niu struggled to find the right words to respond to Shao Miling's questions. Yu Xiaomiao cleared his throat, trying to regain some control of the situation. Shao Miling shouted at him. Mom, why is he here? Where is Shao Taotao? Having recognized Yu Xiaomiao, Shao Miling's eyes widened in shock. She turned to second uncle and demanded. Did you bring Taotao here? Why was I in Yu Xiaomiao's arms when you entered? Second uncle clenched his teeth, his eyes filled with anger. Why are you shouting? Explain why you were with Yu Xiaomiao when we arrived. That's impossible. Shao Miling stared at Yu Xiaomiao. Elle did bring Taotao here, Elle. Her voice gradually trailed off, and panic set in. She tightly gripped Ms. Niu's sleeves. Elle intended to return to the kitchen, but someone struck me on the head. Yes. I was knocked unconscious. And now I'm here. Mom, what's happening? Can you explain? What? You were knocked unconscious? Who could have done it? Second uncle and Ms. Niu exchanged panicked glances, their shock evident. The three of them engaged in a lengthy discussion, attempting to piece together the sequence of events. However, the most perplexing question remained. Who had knocked out Shao Miling and brought her to this room? It must have been someone from the first section of the family. No one else would do such a thing to us. How terrible, how dreadful. Dad, Mom, I refuse to marry into the Yu family. I don't want to. It was supposed to be Taotao, not me. Enough. Shut up. We can't let this go. We must confront the first section of the family and demand answers. Suddenly, the door was forcefully kicked open, and Ms. Fong barged in, heading straight for Ms. Niu. Before Ms. Niu could react, Ms. Fong grabbed her hair and pulled it violently. Ms. Fong screamed as she struck Ms. Niu. You wicked woman. How dare you try to frame Taotao? How dare you? No wonder you suddenly changed your mind about breaking off the engagement. You wanted my Taotao to your daughter's place. You wicked witch. Ms. Fong continued to scream in anger, delivering blow after blow to Ms. Niu, who cried out in pain. Shao Miling stood frozen, trembling in fear. She was too terrified to even cry. "Stop it, elder sister-in-law. Stop." Second uncle pleaded desperately, wanting to intervene but hesitating. He had lost much of his confidence after everything was exposed. "Elder brother, tell elder sister-in-law to stop," he urged, looking at elder uncle. Elder uncle appeared to be lost, as if his spirit had been crushed. Second uncle continued to implore him. Eldest uncle observed the scene but remained silent, struggling to find his own words. Eldest uncle realized that he couldn't order Ms. Fang to stop her actions. Ms. Fang didn't actually remove them from the vicinity, but concealed them nearby. He felt irritated by the idea of eavesdropping, but Ms. Fang insisted that he should witness the unfolding events, which left him perplexed. Then she instructed him to listen, questioning his integrity. Why would he eavesdrop on his brother and Yu Xiaomiao discussing what had transpired? But Ms. Fang compelled him to hear the truth. And that was exactly what he heard. After a while, Ms. Fang released her grip on Ms. Niu, having momentarily satisfied her anger. Chapter 864. Eavesdropping uttered by Bexenville. CM Ms. Fang pointed directly at them, her eyes filled with anger as she unleashed her curse. "From this moment on, we have nothing to do with you anymore. I'm far from finished with this. I will rally the entire clan to seek justice for what you've done. You are truly despicable, and mark my words, your actions will only worsen." Both Ms. Niu and second uncle's faces underwent a sudden change, visibly taken aback. Ms. Niu's face swelled up, displaying numerous blood traces and broken lips. She grimaced in pain but managed to speak through gritted teeth. "Didn't you leave? How dare you eavesdrop on our conversation?" Regret washed over Ms. Niu and second uncle at this critical juncture. However, despite the accident, they were desperate for an explanation. That was why they had wanted to interrogate Yu Xiaomiao. Little did they expect that Ms. Fang and eldest uncle would still be present. Ms. Fang sneered, her voice dripping with disdain. "So what? I now have proof that will expose your secrets." Yet, there was no need for them to remain any longer. "Let's go, old man," Ms. Fang exclaimed, urging eldest uncle to leave. Second uncle pleaded, his voice tinged with remorse. "Elder brother, elder sister-in-law, we deeply regret our actions. We were misguided, but it was all for the sake of our child." Ms. Fang retorted, her words laced with venom. "You framed our child to protect yours. How utterly repulsive." Caught off guard, second uncle stuttered, his voice lacking confidence. We are sorry. But Taotao is still all right, isn't she? Elder brother, elder sister-in-law, please let it go. We're family." Ms. Fang's gaze intensified as she glared at second uncle, her wish to strike him becoming almost tangible. "Where was this notion of family when you plotted against Taotao?" She spat back, her words filled with seething anger. "That's only because we are capable of taking care of her. It doesn't make you good people." Ms. Niu muttered, her words filled with resentment. "You knocked out Myling, didn't you? Which one of you did it?" She questioned, her voice accusingly pointed at them. Qi, along with Ms. Su, Yang Xiaoni and Qiao Xian, had already left after finishing their meal. It seemed likely that Qi was the one who had incapacitated Shao Myling. Being a boy, he possessed the strength to do so. So what? Ms. Fang cursed vehemently, her anger evident. "You set us up, and we played our part." "You," Ms. Niu exclaimed. "Shut up. From this moment on, we are cutting off all ties with you. Old man, come, let's go talk to the land officer and resolve this matter within the clan." Ms. Fang declared firmly, ready to depart. Ms. Niu trembled with anger, but her fear quickly overtook her. Hurriedly, she moved to stop Ms. Fang and second uncle joined her in their attempt. "No, you can't go." Ms. Niu pleaded desperately. "Elder sister-in-law, why be so cruel? Elder brother, say something." Second uncle implored. "Save your breath," Ms. Fang sneered, her voice filled with derision. "You won't be able to stop me, so give it a try. And don't even think you can confine me here. Elder brother, we're truly sorry. After all, we are family, aren't we? It would be an enormous scandal, wouldn't it? It would tarnish Taotao's reputation as well." Anais. Fang's response was swift and sharp. Taotao has had nothing to do with this from the very beginning. She has her brother to care for her. Ms. Niu and second uncle continued to implore, their pleas filled with desperation. Eldest uncle sighed heavily, feeling overwhelmed by the situation. The conversation he overheard outside had shocked, saddened, and deeply disappointed him. His own brother and sister-in-law had orchestrated a scheme against his own daughter. They had plotted to break off the engagement and replace Taotao with their own child. How could they treat Taotao this way? They didn't regard him as an elder brother at all. However, despite his inner turmoil, Taotao had remained unharmed. And now, seeing the couple beg before him like this, he found himself unable to utter any words of reproach. Chapter 865. Second sister-in-law's idea uttered by Bexenville. If news of this situation were to spread, their own family would become a laughingstock, which was far from desirable. Eldest uncle turned towards Ms. Fong, his voice barely audible as he suggested, "What if we persuade the two couples to admit their mistakes and make a promise? Let's just let it go. Our family's reputation will suffer as well." Ms. Niu and second uncle expressed their agreement with cheers and nods. However, Ms. Fong, who had managed to calm herself after venting her anger on Ms. Niu, was once again provoked by eldest uncle's words. She shouted angrily, "No way! You foolish old man, your mind is so muddled. If it weren't for Taotao's luck, we would be the ones suffering here. Your brother and sister-in-law are nothing but trash. They were trying to ruin Taotao's life. And you old fool, agree just because of a few tears and insincere words. What do you truly think of Taotao in your heart? Is she your daughter? Let me tell you, I will never agree to this solution. And ask our sons, do you think they would agree? Taotao has done nothing wrong, and neither have we. What does a mere name matter? There's no way we will ever agree to it." Ms. Fong had no intention of making peace, and she even berated eldest uncle, leaving him dumbfounded. Second uncle and Ms. Niu were equally stunned. As Ms. Fong rushed out, the two of them stood frozen, not daring to stop her in any way. Shao Meiling suddenly jolted awake. If this matter were to be brought before the clan, the first section of the family would undoubtedly side with their own family, causing them to lose everything. She shouted, desperation evident in her voice. It was second sister-in-law's idea. It was all her doing. It has nothing to do with my parents. Elder aunt, if you want to blame someone, blame second sister-in-law. It was her idea. Everyone was taken aback, their expressions filled with shock. Second uncle and Ms. Niu shared in the same astonishment. Ms. Fong also came to a halt, turning to face Shao Meiling with a cold gaze. Shao Meiling recoiled, her voice trembling as she confessed, "I never intended to break off the engagement, but one day, second sister-in-law approached me." In that moment, Shao Meiling forgot about the promise she had made to Ms.Zhang. She didn't even recall the agreement they had reached. Being a selfish woman who harbored dislike for Ms.Zhang, Shao Meiling felt no remorse for betraying her. Thus, she divulged every detail without hesitation. Everyone present, Ms. Niu nearly screamed in fury. "That wretched woman! I knew it. She always wears a sinister expression and is full of wicked tricks. I want to beat her to death." Ms. Fong sneered, her tone dripping with disdain. "Ms. Zhang may have planted the seed, but you willingly accepted her idea, didn't you? If you hadn't even entertained the thought, Ms. Zhang's suggestion would have had no effect on you." Shao Meiling covered her face, sobbing uncontrollably. I just wanted to marry someone better." Ms. Fang's voice turned icy as she responded, "Your mother had found you a suitable match. You aren't deserving of anyone better. Let me make it clear, if you ever try to benefit from Yenduan's troubles, I will tear you apart." Shao Meiling trembled in fear, not daring to utter a single word. It wouldn't be long before Ms. Zhang arrived, escorted by others. Yu Xiaomiao felt a sense of speechlessness in the midst of it all. There was no need for him to play along anymore. With a polite wave, he bid them farewell and left. Chapter 866. Ms. Zhang's embarrassment uttered by Bexenville. Ms. Niu and second uncle felt a deep sense of embarrassment. They had allowed their prospective son-in-law to witness this chaotic situation, and it exposed their lack of self-esteem. They couldn't find any words to undo what had already transpired. Second uncle composed himself, mustered a few kind words, and escorted Yu Xiaomiao out. Soon, members from both the first and second sections of the family gathered in the hall. Ms. Niu directed her anger towards Ms. Zhang, using her as an outlet for her frustration. She raised her hand and delivered a harsh slap across Ms. Zhang's face, causing her to stagger and fall. "You wretched woman! I never should have kept you around. How despicable you are!" Tears streamed down Ms. Zhang's face as she covered her injured cheek. Shao Erlang was taken aback by the scene and rushed forward to help Ms. Zhang, but he was abruptly stopped by Ms. Niu's stern command. "Stop. Don't touch her." "Mom. What did she do? What are you doing? And what about you?" Shao Erlang questioned, bewildered by the situation. Ms. Niu felt pain coursing through her body, both physically and emotionally. It was only because of Ms. Zhang's actions that she found herself in this situation. "Ask her yourself. You wicked woman. You're a troublemaker." Shao Erlang was still grappling with confusion. "Mom, perhaps there's been a misunderstanding?" Ms. Fong let out a disdainful snort before slowly recounting the entire story. Only Xiao Yinduan, Qiao Xianqi, and Taotao were aware of it prior to this revelation. The rest of the family members were shocked by the revelation. They all cast scornful glances at Ms. Zhang. If the story was true, Ms. Zhang's actions were incredibly malicious. Ms. Yen felt a chill run down her spine. If Ms. Zhang were to remain in the family, she would insist on living separately, no matter what. She refused to share a roof with such a woman, for fear that she might be harmed in her sleep. Shao Erlang was taken aback, his eyes widening as if he had been struck by a heavy blow. Turning pale, he staggered backward a few steps. No Erlang, no. You have to believe me. I never said those things. I never instigated Miling. She's lying." Ms. Zhang cursed inwardly at Xiao Miling, Ms. Niu, and second uncle. They were all utterly useless. They had failed at such a simple task. If only they had been a little more competent and successful, it would have been the first section of the family who would be in tears right now, not her. Ms. Zhang refused to admit that she was the mastermind behind the idea. Through tears, she pleaded, "I've returned, but none of you like me. You all despise me. I can't defend myself, but why do you continue to heap accusations upon me? I don't have the courage to say such things. Furthermore, if you force me to shoulder the blame, I would never be able to shake it off. Erlang, you have to believe me. What are you saying? You taught me everything." Xiao Miling was consumed with rage, lunging towards Ms. Zhang, attempting to strike her. Xiao Erlang intervened, stopping Xiao Miling. "Miling, calm down. No violence." "Second brother." Xiao Miling angrily pushed his hand away, snapping back. "She did it. She taught me everything. If it weren't for her, I would never have conceived of such an idea. But she refuses to confess. And now she's making me take the blame. Step aside, I'm going to kill her." Ms. Zhang sobbed, her voice filled with sorrow. Xiao Erlang found himself caught in the middle, his expression filled with bitterness. Yet he still positioned himself between Xiao Miling and his wife. Miling, the second sister-in-law, did make a mistake in the past, but you can't solely hold her accountable. You need evidence. Chapter 867. A potential harm uttered by Bexenville. I am so furious. Xiao Miling seethed with anger. She told me when there were only two of us. I can't find any evidence. This person must have done this on purpose. That's why she is denying it now. What are you putting on that sad look for? You are the most vicious one. Xiao Miling exclaimed, her anger apparent. Xiao Miling looked infuriated and attempted to throw a punch at Ms. Zhang, but was restrained by Xiao Erlang. She cursed and struggled against his grip. Young Xiaoni whispered to Qiao Xian. "What are they doing here? I'm confused. Fifth sister-in-law, who do you think is lying?" Qiao Xian smiled and shook her head. "I'm not sure. There is no evidence." "But what's your opinion?" "I'd rather not speculate." Young Xiaoni chuckled and agreed. "True. However, Deep down, Xiao Xian believed that Shao Meiling was telling the truth. Ms. Zhang had a shady character, and Shao Meiling hadn't considered this aspect of their marriage, but Ms. Zhang might have. Nis. Zhang held a grudge against both the second and first sections of the family. If her plan had succeeded, the first section of the family would have become the victims and would have started hating the second section of the family, which was exactly what she desired. This woman posed a potential threat to everyone. Ms. Niu shouted, "Stop it, you two. Son, Meiling doesn't lie. This person is not a good woman. Are you seriously going to believe a lying, vicious person who nearly got your son killed over your own sister? Are you out of your mind?" Ms. Niu had barely finished speaking when Ms. Zhang broke down in tears. "I knew it. You'll never forgive me for what I did." Ms. Niu spat, her annoyance evident as she exclaimed, "No one will ever forgive you for this. I never begged you to come back. It was you who shamelessly showed up at our doorstep. You were divorced. How dare you return and put on such a pitiful act? I shouldn't have agreed. You wretched woman. No wonder Meiling confronted you as soon as you came home. Admit it, you bitch. I didn't do it. You're all mistaken. It was you. You did it." Experiencing a headache, Ms. Fong snapped, "That's your own family matter, and you can discuss it later. I need one resolution on this. The clan needs to be informed." Xiao Yunduan agreed. "Anything Mom says." Xiao Sanlang angrily chimed in. "Exactly. We can't just let it go like this. Taotao is a kind girl who was almost harmed because of you." Eldest uncle fell silent as he tried to speak. He did have a few things to say, but he knew that none of his words would make a difference. He suddenly felt a pang of sadness. None of his sons understood him at all. Ms. Fong stood up and declared, "Let's go and find the land officer." No, elder sister-in-law. It's all Ms. Zhang's fault. She's a troublemaker. Well, kick her out of the family. Will that satisfy you? It's your decision, not mine. Most people in your family are irritating." Ms. Fong responded. Instead of engaging in further conversation with her, and under the protection of Xiao Yunduan, Xiao Xian, and other family members, Ms. Fong hurriedly made her way to the land officer's house, paying no heed to eldest uncle's persistent attempts to stop her. Chapter 868. Not family anymore. Uttered by Bexenville. CM Ms. Fong was adamant about obtaining a satisfactory resolution. Ms. Niu and second uncle were shocked and couldn't let the first section of the family handle the situation alone. They brought along Shao Meiling and had Nis. Zhang escorted while they ascended together with Xiao Erlang. When the land officer and the elderly men from the clan gathered and heard the story, they were all taken aback and began lecturing the second section of the family. Naturally, they defended the first section of the family more, as their actions had been quite vicious and self-centered, impossible to ignore. Ms. Niu and second uncle felt deeply embarrassed by the situation. They could have argued if it were something else, but Ms. Fong and eldest uncle had overheard the conversation with Yu Xiaomiao as a witness. It was solid evidence. Ms. Niu pushed Ms. Zhang to the ground, labeling her as the culprit. She trusted her own daughter, and at this point, Ms. Zhang had to shoulder the blame regardless of the circumstances. Considering Ms. Zhang had done something similar in the past, almost everyone present believed Shao Meiling and Ms. Niu. Ms. Niu continued to shout that they would divorce Ms. Zhang once again. She made a fierce vow, stating that they wouldn't have treated the first section of the family in such a manner if it hadn't been for Ms. Zhang's plan. None of this would have happened without her as the culprit. Thus, they sincerely hoped that the first section of the family would forgive them. Nis. Zhang continued to cry incessantly. As someone who had done something similar before, and with her mother-in-law and sister-in-law accusing her directly, she had no argument to counter. However, they were still a family, and Ms. Niu's decision had nothing to do with the land officer and the elderly men from the clan. But the second section of the family had almost caused harm to the first section of the family. Thankfully, Taotao was unharmed. The others offered a few consoling words, and while the two sections of the family wouldn't completely sever their relationship, a lingering grudge remained between them. From that moment onward, the first section of the family would no longer consider the second section as part of their family, treating them instead as an ordinary family from the same clan. Second uncle and Ms. Niu pleaded for forgiveness. No, no. We are a family bound by blood. We're not just an ordinary family from the clan. Elder brother, please say something. You want to prove of this, right? You promised our parents that you would take care of us. Why are you begging him? He's the most vicious and cruel man. If you hadn't refused to help us break off the engagement, we wouldn't have resorted to this. You're heartless. Eldest uncle let out a heavy sigh, and Ms. Fong, Shao Yunduan, Shao Sanlang, and even Shao Dalong looked at him expressionlessly. Tears welling up in her eyes, Taotao spoke. What do you have to say, Dad? In your eyes, you prioritize second uncle and third uncle's families, and their children are treated so well. You protect and assist them all the time, but what about me? Why am I not your niece but just your daughter? Eldest uncle turned pale and stumbled back. What are you saying? Ms. Fong grabbed hold of Taotao, as she coldly addressed eldest uncle. You are my beloved daughter, and I love you. Your brothers and sisters-in-law all love and protect you. We will never forgive anyone who tries to bully you. Qiao Xian could no longer tolerate the situation. She calmly stated, the second section of the family attempted to harm Taotao today, and if we don't delve deeper into this, they may try to harm someone else tomorrow. If I can't obtain a satisfactory answer from the resolution, I will have to take matters into my own hands to vent my anger. I love Taotao, and I will never allow her to suffer. Ms. Niu screamed. What do you mean? Chapter 869. Paying back uttered by Bexenville. CM Qiao Xian's smile was fleeting. We will repay you in the same way you hurt us. NIS. Niu was taken aback. What do you mean? Qiao Xian continued. We will employ the same methods you used against us. Ms. Niu, second uncle, and Shao Erlang all turned pale. That won't work. It's impossible. Ms. Fong sneered. You can frame us, but we can't do the same to you? That doesn't sound fair. Second uncle and Ms. Niu were left dumbfounded. Indeed, they could frame the first section of the family because they believed eldest uncle would always defend them, giving them the freedom to do as they pleased. Their best course of action now was to offer an apology. However, what if the first section of the family didn't like them and wanted to frame them in return? They would be incapable of defending themselves. They had never considered this before. It had never occurred to them that while they devised various schemes to torment the first section of the family, the same tactics could be used against them. Second uncle and Ms. Niu couldn't help but tremble. Qiao Xian stopped looking at them. Eldest uncle felt a profound sense of despair, but dared not utter a word. He had no control over Qiao Xian, Shao Yunduan, Ms. Fong, or anyone else in his family. One wrong word, and his brother's family would face even harsher consequences. Inwardly he sighed. What had caused all of this? This incident would be accurately recorded in the clan's records. The land officer had tried to conceal the entire affair to prevent their reputations from being tarnished. But Shao Yunduan rejected the proposal. He urged the land officer to make the truth public. He wanted everyone to clearly understand the true relationship between the first and second sections of the family, ensuring that the latter wouldn't carry out any unpleasant acts under the guise of the former. Second uncle and Ms. Niu were furious but lacked the courage to say anything after hearing Qiao Xian's threat. News of the incident quickly spread, shocking the entire village. Many people criticized Ms. Niu for her foolishness. What was she thinking? It was fortunate that Taotao was unharmed. If something had happened to her, there would be no evidence to prove that Ms. Niu was responsible. However, the first section of the family would never forgive them either. To make matters even more absurd, they even attempted to find a better suitor for Shao Meiling through Shao Yunduan. It was utterly ridiculous. Upon returning home, Ms. Niu was consumed by anger. She slapped and kicked Ms.Zhang, shouting at Shao Erlang and demanding that he divorce her once again. Ms.Zhang crumpled to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably with her head lowered. Shao Erlang found himself torn. He knelt down and pleaded with his mother to forgive Ms.Zhang. There was no proof implicating her, and her tears genuinely made him feel sorry for her. She was his wife, and he didn't want her to suffer from a false accusation. He wouldn't agree to divorce his wife based solely on the words of others. Ms. Niu was filled with frustration, her heart aching. She cursed Shao Erlang for being ungrateful and cruel. However, Ms. Zhang chose to stay despite everything that had transpired. Ms. Niu and second uncle became increasingly concerned about Shao Meiling's marriage. Since Shao Meiling and Yu Xiaomiao had been alone in a room together, they were compelled to get married. Now they were apprehensive that the Yu family might cancel the engagement. After discussing the situation, the couple gathered their courage and sought support from the first section of the family. They approached Xiao Yunduan, hoping he could assist and stand up for Shao Meiling. Chapter 870. Auntie Niu and Uncle Shao uttered by Bexenville. CM, elder brother, elder sister-in-law, don't you care about Shao Meiling? She is your niece, and you can't simply allow her to be bullied after her marriage, can you? Please, elder brother and elder sister-in-law, pleaded the couple, finding a suitable moment to ask for the favor when eldest uncle was at home after dinner. Before eldest uncle could respond, Qiao Xian cleared her throat and spoke with a smile. Auntie Niu, Uncle Shao, Taotao is also your niece. But I'm not sure if you would ever allow her to be bullied, considering what you've done. Yang Xiaoni and Ms. Su struggled to hold back their laughter. Ms. Fong snapped and glared at the couple saying, Shao Meiling is not innocent. Don't lie to me. I heard her laughing at Taotao when she thought her plan had succeeded. How dare you ask Yunduan to support her? Get lost. However, Ms. Niu and second uncle seemed oblivious to Ms. Fang's words. They were stunned by Qiao Xian's way of addressing them. What are you calling us? They asked in disbelief. Qiao Xian responded. Auntie Niu and Uncle Shao, is there something wrong with that? Second uncle became so furious that he nearly fainted. Elder brother. Ms. Fong chimed in. Hey, there's no elder brother here. You have no manners. Just leave. Eldest uncle could no longer tolerate the situation. Ms. Fong, that's enough. Ms. Fong snorted. I want to emphasize that these two people have no relation to us. Why should I be the one in the wrong? Ms. Niu and second uncle were both filled with anger and anxiety. It suddenly dawned on them that their connection with the first section of the family had been severed. And at this moment, the reality sank in for Ms. Niu and second uncle. It wasn't a dream but a harsh reality they had to face. Qiao Xian's way of addressing them had struck a nerve, making them realize the severance of their ties with the first section of the family. Shao Yunduan intervened, reminding eldest uncle that the land officer and the clan had already made the announcement, leaving no room for argument. Eldest uncle pleaded. Can't you help your fellow clan members? Shao Yunduan replied firmly. But I don't want to. Eldest uncle. Ms. Fong sneered. Did you hear that? My son loves his sister, and you're trying to force him? If you want to back them up, go ahead. But I will expose the true relationship between Ms. Niu and Xiao Delu with us. So you'll be standing alone, not on our behalf. Eldest uncle muttered. You? Ms. Fong interrupted. Feel free to try. NIS. Niu and second uncle were still in a daze as they were driven out of the Shao family's gate. As they looked at the towering house and the closed gate, they felt an emptiness in their hearts. Something was missing, something that could never be regained. They could sense each other's anxiety and worries. The realization hit them hard. There was no one to clean up their mess for them. The first section of the family, they've truly severed ties. Ms. Niu seethed with anger and placed the blame on Ms. Zhang. It's all because of that troublemaker, Ms. Zhang. With a heavy heart, the couple reached out to Yu Xiaomiao, unsure of how the Yu family would react. To their surprise, the Yu family acted as if nothing had occurred and agreed to proceed with the marriage. They came to an agreement on the wedding date, which would be the 6th day of March the following year. The couple breathed a sigh of relief. Without the support of the first section of the family, they couldn't afford to say anything negative about the Yu family. Furthermore, Mrs. Yu had expressed regret over the initially rejected engagement, but Mr. Yu and Yu Xiaomiao decided to uphold the marriage arrangement. They were still blood-related, which would always be beneficial for them. Chapter 871. Buying Happiness uttered by Bexenville. Xiao Meiling seemed to be better off compared to the other girls, so why would they reject the marriage proposal? Despite her unpleasant personality, if she behaved well after getting married, everything would be fine. If she dared to act out, she would be dealt with accordingly. Ms. Yen wasn't pleased with Ms. Zhang's presence. She believed Xiao Meiling's claim that if her sister-in-law truly wanted to break off the engagement, she would have done so before Ms. Zhang returned. Clearly, something had transpired between them. To avoid Ms. Zhang, Ms. Yen decided to live separately from the rest of the family after the New Year and the Lantern Festival. Although the relationship between the two families had undergone a significant change, Ms. Yen continued to visit the first section of the family daily, and they treated her with equal respect. Qiao Xian and Ms. Fong suspected that Ms. Zhang was responsible for the situation. It was not surprising that she harbored resentment and might try to manipulate the first section of the family. Qiao Xian even cautioned Ms. Yen to be vigilant and avoid being framed by Ms. Zhang, as she appeared to be quite unstable. Ms. Yen was grateful for Qiao Xian's warning and sighed with a bitter smile, contemplating the possibility of living separately. Qiao Xian glanced at her with surprise and couldn't help but admire her resilience. Ms. Yen shook her head and chuckled. It could be very difficult. You know what your in-laws are like. They suspect Ms.Zhang and they won't agree with your proposal. Initially, Ms. Yen had been filled with anger and tried to convince herself that it was necessary. However, at this point she was no longer so sure. She understood how challenging it was to deal with her in-laws. If they disapproved of the proposal, there would be little she could do about it. Fifth sister-in-law, do you have any other suggestions? Please help me, she pleaded. Qiao Xian pondered for a moment and replied, don't handle it yourself. Ask your parents to intervene, using both firmness and persuasion. Perhaps offering them some benefits could increase the chances of success. Ms. Niu and second uncle were afraid of confrontational individuals, but were inclined to take advantage of the more accommodating ones. If the Yen family exerted pressure and provided some incentives, Ms. Niu and second uncle might agree to the arrangement, especially considering that Shao Xiling was their son and could support them despite the separation. However, the outcome would depend on what Ms. Yen was willing to offer in return. Nis. Yen thought for a while and quickly made a firm decision without any hesitation. She expressed her gratitude to Qiao Xian with a smile. Offering 10 or 20 liang, along with generous ongoing support fees, would be worthwhile. It was a price she was willing to pay for some peace. She had a substantial amount of money now, although she wasn't particularly eager to part with such a large sum. However, it wouldn't hurt her too much financially. With a weight lifted off her mind, Ms. Yen returned home feeling content. However, she was met with a dark stare from Ms. Zhang once again. A chill ran down Ms. Yan's spine. She quickly glanced at Ms. Zhang and instinctively moved away, trying to avoid her. Nice, Zhang sneered, causing Ms. Yen to feel even more unsettled. Her heart raced, and she almost lost her balance. This woman was truly deranged. She was terrifying. Driven by Ms. Niu, Ms. Zhang had reached the brink of mental instability. After Xiao Meiling's marriage was finally settled, Ms. Niu had no other matters to attend to. Thus, she turned her attention towards Ms. Zhang. Her gaze was filled with malice, making her intentions clear. Chapter 872. Ms. Zhang's blame uttered by Bexenville. CM Translator. Henyi Translations NIS. Niu firmly believed that Ms. Zhang was responsible for all the troubles their family had endured, and she had no intention of giving her an easy time considering their past conflicts. Ms. Zhang was constantly tormented by Ms. Niu, and this constant torment had further deteriorated her original personality, making her even more sinister. She harbored a deep hatred for them, especially Ms. Niu. However, she didn't dare retaliate against Ms. Niu, as she was her mother-in-law and a senior figure in the family. She knew that if she did anything to Ms. Niu, her own suffering would only worsen, especially since she was already in a difficult situation without provoking Ms. Niu. A mother-in-law needed no excuse to berate her daughter-in-law. In this house, excuses were unnecessary. Frustrated and irritated, Ms. Zhang started to vent her anger on Ms. Yen. As they were walking together with their sons, Ms. Zhang suddenly pushed her own son, causing him to fall to the ground and burst into tears. Ms. Zhang screamed, "Fourth sister-in-law, how could you harm and push Xianwen like that? You're so vicious. I know you hate me, but you can't blame this on Xianwen. He's innocent." Ms. Yen was taken aback by Ms. Zhang's sudden outburst and her deteriorating mental state. Anger coursed through her, causing her to tremble. "Second sister-in-law, show me your evidence. I didn't lay a hand on Xianwen." "Of course you did. You're too afraid to admit it. If you hate me, blame it on me, not on a child. Oh, my life is so bitter, my poor little boy." "You're insane. You're lying. You're just too cowardly to admit it. What's all this shouting about?" Ms. Niu emerged from the house, her impatience evident in her tone as she interrupted the argument. "Ms. Zhang, what do you think you're doing? If you can't stay here quietly, then pack your bags and go back to your village." Ms. Zhang, with tears streaming down her face, held a deep grudge as she replied. "It was the fourth sister-in-law who hit and pushed Xianwen. You're not blaming her, you're blaming me." "Elle didn't do any of that," Ms. Yen exclaimed, denying the accusation. Shao Xianwen continued crying inconsolably. "Oh, my poor little grandson." Ms. Niu felt sorry for Shao Xianwen. She gently lifted him up, comforting him, and then instructed Shao Meiling to take the child back inside. "Annie." Zhang sneered and cast a proud glance at Ms. Yen. However, in the next moment, two loud slaps echoed through the air as Ms. Niu struck Ms. Zhang across the face. Pointing at her, Ms. Niu cursed. "You are forbidden from going near Xianwen. Are you trying to harm him again? You vicious woman." Clutching her stinging cheeks, Ms. Zhang burst into tears. "Elle didn't do it. It was the fourth sister-in-law." "Shut up. I don't believe a word you say. Ms. Yen has no reason to do such things, and you kidnapped your own child. You're capable of anything." "Elle didn't, it was the fourth sister-in-law." "Ah." Ms. Zhang received another slap across the face. "Just keep your mouth shut, you vile woman. You disgust me. If it weren't for troublemakers like you, our family wouldn't be in this mess. It's all your fault. You've already ruined Meiling's marriage, and now you're targeting Ms. Yen. You never give up, do you?" Ms. Zhang cried even harder. This only served to further infuriate Ms. Niu. She snapped. "You bringer of misfortune. Be silent now. Kneel down right here and reflect on your actions." Chapter 873. Giving Up Pretending Udat by Zinvel. Ms. Zhang cried uncontrollably, collapsing onto the ground, her body trembling with anguish. Why her mother-in-law had already made up her mind to support Ms. Yen without even considering her side of the story. She didn't believe a word Ms. Zhang said and continued to humiliate and torment her. Ms. Zhang felt herself spiraling into madness. Ms. Yen, who had been angry about the false accusations, unexpectedly felt a tinge of compassion towards Ms. Zhang. She could see that Ms. Zhang was truly suffering in this terrible situation. Nis. Zhang had never imagined that her mother-in-law would completely lose trust in her. It was fortunate in a way, as she no longer had to struggle to defend herself. After cursing Ms. Zhang, Ms. Niu sneered and turned to Ms. Yen, speaking in a gentle tone. "It's getting cold outside. Let's go inside." Ms. Yen was taken aback, but nodded in agreement. Ms. Zhang's heart ached as she witnessed this interaction. She struggled to rise to her feet and spoke angrily. "Oh no, all of you hate me. But what have I done? If it weren't for your coldness and hostility, I could have lived a peaceful life and cherished my own children." Ms. Niu turned back, her eyes filled with fury, and ordered Ms. Zhang to kneel down. "Your time is not up yet," she spat. Any remaining compassion Ms. Yen had for Ms. Zhang vanished as she replied. "Second sister-in-law, no one owes you anything. You asked for money, but did you ever plan to repay it? You know very well that people are not obliged to fulfill your every request." Ms. Niu sneered in response. "Repaying money? Her worthless brother has nothing to repay." Nis. Zhang shot a fierce glare at Ms. Niu. This only further infuriated Ms. Niu. "What are you staring at? Am one not allowed to complain about your worthless brother?" Ms. Zhang, filled with anger and frustration, retorted defiantly. "I'm not leaving. You can beat me to death if you want." I'd like to see how capable you are. If you kill me, you'll have to pay with a life. I'm not afraid of you. You can do whatever you want to me, but I'm staying right here." Both Ms. Yan and Ms. Niu were taken aback by Ms. Zhang's outburst. Realizing that she had reached her limit, Ms. Zhang decided to give up pretending and confronted Ms. Niu directly. Ms. Niu, furious at Ms. Zhang's defiance, responded angrily. "What are you saying, Ms. Zhang? Say it again. I'm not afraid of you. Drive me away if you want. You don't believe me, and Erlang won't believe you either. You vile bitch. I'll kill you." Ms. Niu, overcome with anger, rolled up her sleeves, ready to strike Ms. Zhang. Reacting instinctively, Ms. Zhang dodged the slap and pushed Ms. Niu away. "You dare to challenge me?" Ms. Niu, consumed by rage, lunged at Ms. Zhang, attempting to beat and scratch her. In the struggle, however, Ms. Niu slipped and fell hard to the ground. "Ah! You wretched bitch! How dare you lay your hands on me?" Second uncle, having just returned from outside, witnessed the altercation. He quickly approached and assisted Ms. Niu, exclaiming, "What are you all staring at? Come and help." Ms. Yan, still in a state of disbelief, snapped back to reality. She hurriedly joined second uncle in assisting Ms. Niu to her feet. Meanwhile, Ms. Zhang remained where she was, displaying a seemingly emotionless expression. She had nothing to lose at that moment, and was hesitant to intervene. Chapter 874. Embarrassed Udat by Zinvel. "CM, divorce her immediately. How dare she touch me? She's plotting to kidnap and kill me." Nis. Zhang, her lips bitten, responded weakly, "I didn't push her." "Enough, I saw everything." Second uncle sneered. "Ms. Zhang, you truly have a wicked heart." Abandoning her pretenses, Ms. Zhang turned around and walked away. Ms. Niu and second uncle seethed with anger, feeling a deep sense of outrage. "She just walks away like this? How dare she? Our son is foolish to show any kindness to this vile woman." When Shao Erlang returned in the evening, Ms. Niu and second uncle pressured him to divorce his wife. Ms. Niu pounded on her chest, as if deeply wounded in her heart. Ms. Zhang, no longer pretending, cried uncontrollably, hoping to convince Shao Erlang of her innocence. That was all she wanted. She had given up pretending. But Shao Erlang, still enamored with her, hesitated to believe his parents' accusations without proof. His affection for her remained. Ms. Niu had never felt this level of fury before, especially when it was caused by someone as vile as Ms. Zhang. Overwhelmed by anger, she collapsed, leaving second uncle and Ms. Yan in shock. Furious, second uncle pushed Shao Erlang away, his voice filled with anger. "You trust this woman over your own parents? Do you want her to harm your mother so you'll believe us? You're a terrible son." Shao Erlang was taken aback by his mother's collapse and felt overwhelmed with guilt. He cried uncontrollably, kneeling on the ground as he pleaded, "I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to. I need proof." "What proof do you need? Do you think your mother and I orchestrated this? You know very well what your mother is like. She may be nagging and stingy, but she would never falsely accuse someone of such things." Shao Erlang turned pale, burdened by guilt. Second uncle sneered. Even Ms. Yan witnessed everything. Shao Erlang suddenly looked up at Ms. Yan. And so did Shao Xilang. Ms. Yan cursed inwardly at her father-in-law's stupidity. How did she get caught up in this conflict? What could she say? She couldn't tell the truth, as her in-laws would never forgive her. But could she tell a lie? If she did, and they believed her, they would drive Ms. Zhang away. However, Shao Xiling wouldn't blame his parents. He would blame her for ruining his marriage. Feeling trapped and conflicted, Ms. Yan sighed and looked down. "Father, you're putting me in an incredibly difficult position." She realized that no matter what she said, it wouldn't be well received by her second brother. Ms. Zhang screamed, "Fourth sister-in-law, why do you hate me and spread these rumors?" Ms. Yan responded coldly, "What did I say? I never touched Xianwen. You accused me of pushing him when you and I crossed paths. What more can I say? I can't simply claim that you're using your own son to frame me, can I? But because of Dad's words, I had no choice but to speak up. Yet, no matter what I say, You refuse to admit the truth. Chapter 875. Divorce again. Udat Bisenval. Ms.Zhang regained consciousness and glared at Ms.Zhang, her anger intensifying. Divorce her now. Shao couldn't hold back his tears. His father was right. Although his mother was unreliable in many ways, she would never plot something like this. And his fourth sister-in-law didn't appear to be a liar either. Shao began to understand the truth unfolding before him. When his mother had fainted in anger, he had already sensed the reality of the situation. If his mother had orchestrated all of this, she wouldn't have collapsed like that. He just didn't want to believe it. But the truth could not be avoided. It would eventually reveal itself. Ms.Zhang, overwhelmed with despair, cried inconsolably. She realized that she was doomed. Her husband had lost faith in her and no longer wanted to defend her. What had gone wrong with her life? Suddenly, an angry resentment brewed within Ms.Zhang. She incessantly questioned why she was treated like a thief in her own home, never given a chance to atone for her mistakes. She vowed to never give them any peace in their lives. Ms.Zhang confessed to everything, the events of today, her involvement with Shao Meiling. She even mocked them for their gullibility, claiming that she almost succeeded. What a shame! She taunted. Shao watched her in disbelief. Ms.Zhang nearly fainted once again. The following day, Ms.Zhang was divorced and forcibly sent back to her home once again. However, the next day, she regretted her impulsive confession. Tearfully, she pleaded with the Shao family to allow her to stay until after the new year. Shao was on the verge of accepting her plea, but he was overruled by Ms.Zhang and second uncle. Ms.Zhang snapped. Stay until the new year? I don't want to be poisoned to death by you. Upon hearing those words, Shao had no further arguments. He steeled his heart and, with the assistance of some fellow villagers, returned Ms. Zhang and the divorce papers to the Zhang village. Regardless of what Mrs. Zhang or Ms. Zhang said, their minds remained unchanged. Ms. Zhang had admitted to all her wrongdoings, and the villagers of Shouting were no longer willing to accommodate her. Back in the Zhang family's home, Ms. Zhang felt immense regret. Compared to the life she had with her mother, the torments she endured at her husband's home seemed insignificant. At least, in her husband's home, no one treated her like an animal or denied her food. She despised her mother-in-law, but she had never taken a moment to reflect on her own actions. If only she hadn't been so stubborn and blinded by her loyalty towards her brother, she wouldn't have ended up in this predicament. She had become a fool. What was wrong with her? Her own family showed no compassion, and she had even kidnapped her own son for their sake. But what had she gained in the end? She brought no benefits to her mother's family, and instead, she earned resentment and hatred from her husband's family. Now, she was being cursed and scorned by her own family. Everything she did was for the sake of her own family, but their treatment of her was completely different. Once again, Ms. Zhang attempted to elicit compassion from her in-laws through loud cries and even fainting, but Ms. Zhang sent her back to the Zhang family that very night. Ms. Zhang finally gave up. She cried uncontrollably. She realized that her husband's family would never forgive her. And as for her own family, they didn't want her to waste any resources at home. So they sold her to a middle-aged man in a destitute, impoverished village. Her parents and brother couldn't wait to seize the opportunity to make some money, so they hastily arranged the deal. Chapter 876. Ms. Zhang's and Udat Bisenval. The settlement was 5 liang. No matter how much she pleaded, she was still sold away. During her visit to Ms. Fang and Qiao, Ms. Yen shared what had transpired with the second branch of the family, and Ms. Zhang. Ms. Fang reacted with frustration. One knew it. But without evidence, there was little one could do to confront her. I simply thought it best to keep our distance. Nevertheless, it's a good thing that Ms. Zhang divorced her. Qiao sighed, acknowledging that Ms. Zhang had, in a way, taken the right course of action. Sometimes, things were resolved in unexpected ways, due to someone's brashness. All things considered, it was for the best. After all, it was extremely challenging to keep a safe distance from someone as extreme and malicious as Ms. Zhang. especially when neither Qiao Xian nor Shao Yunduan were around. The concern for the well-being of the family weighed heavily on their minds. Qiao Xian still had worries regarding the papayas and dragon fruits. With that in mind, she decided to travel to the province, visiting First Madam and purchasing some gifts along the way. She also made arrangements for Qi to stay with Xie Jingrong and the Xie family. It wasn't a decision made lightly, as asking for such assistance was never an easy matter. The debt of gratitude would need to be repaid eventually. Moreover, Shao Yunduan wanted to avoid any rumors suggesting that he was heartless, potentially causing others to look down on him, and making it harder for him to seek assistance in the future. Shao Yunduan valued his friendship with Xie Jingrong and the Xie family, but he couldn't simply owe them a favor indefinitely. However, when it came to Qi's safety, he didn't hesitate to take this step. He informed the family of his decision, and together, they embarked on the journey to the province with Qi, Taotao, and Qiao Xian. As they arrived in the province, they noticed that the lights were already on, despite the early hour. Since it was quite cold inside the mansion, they opted to stay in a hostel instead. The following day, they paid a visit to First Madam, who was overjoyed to see them. She invited them to stay with the family, and instructed her men to retrieve their luggage from the hostel. Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan expressed their gratitude happily. Living there without Ms. Mi and Yuezhing Ting, Qiao Xian felt a sense of relief. Yuezhing Shao's brother, Yuezhing Hong, was also present, and he hosted a family banquet to welcome the couple and their family. It was a delightful occasion. Yuezhing Shao accompanied them outside of town to inspect the fruits. Although the fruits didn't grow during winter, they were still alive and not withered. They showed signs of vitality. Yuezhing Shao smiled with emotion. Honestly, I was worried about these seeds. I came to check on them a few days ago when the weather changed, and they seem to be doing well. I never expected that the fruits from the south could thrive so beautifully here. Qiao Xian had already used her superpower to test the fruits. They were all in good condition, with healthy roots underground. This brought her a sense of relief. She smiled and said, "It's not yet the coldest day, so we'll have to wait and see if they can sprout next spring when the weather warms up." Chapter 877. Qiao Xian's Happiness Udat by Zenvel. CM it should be. Yuezhing Shao expressed his confidence, adding, "I wouldn't be so sure if I were talking to anyone else but you. You have a remarkable talent for nurturing plants. I believe there won't be any problem at all." Qiao Xian laughed, accepting the compliment graciously. If Yuezhing Shao said so, then she didn't need to provide any further explanations. His confidence alleviated her concerns. As they walked through the garden, Qiao Xian took occasional breaks, using her superpower to assist the plants in thriving during the winter. She ensured that they would soon bud and flourish when spring arrived. Satisfied with her work, Qiao Xian spent an entire day in the garden, free from worries. Later, they had dinner with Xie Jingrong, during which they shared the news of Qi's voluntary decision to join the army and requested Xie Jingrong's support and protection. Xie Jingrong was taken aback by the news, but he spoke highly of Qi and readily agreed to Shao Yunduan's request. Providing a letter of recommendation was a simple task for the Xie family. As someone familiar with military camps, Xie Jingrong shared some insights with Qi. Qi's eyes sparkled with excitement as he listened to the stories. He nodded eagerly and asked curious questions. Even Shao Yunduan and Qiao Xian gained a better understanding, which alleviated their worries to some extent. Military camps might not be as dreadful as they had initially imagined. Xie Jingrong had an extensive collection of books on military and armies, and he offered to search for some suitable ones for Qi to read, which Shao Yunduan could take back home. Shao Yunduan was delighted with the offer and expressed his gratitude to Xie Jingrong, asking if he could make copies of the books. Xie Jingrong agreed, giving his permission for Shao Yunduan to make copies. Shao Yunduan decided to copy the books and store them in the village's library, which was currently under construction. He made copies of all the books he had access to from the Xie family's collection, being cautious not to ask for more than he was given, as it might seem greedy. After all, the Xie family had multiple members and resources to manage. Everything proceeded smoothly, and their hearts felt lighter. First Madam accompanied Qiao and Taotao, joining them in purchasing various goods for the upcoming new year. Combined with the gifts from First Madam, their wagons were filled to the brim. To Qiao's surprise, she received an unexpected gift during this time. Eavesdropping had brought seeds of sweet melons, along with 2 large bunches of blueberry tree buds and cherry buds. He explained that the melons were delicious, but due to the long distance, they couldn't be brought back without the risk of rotting. Instead, he brought the seeds for Qiao to plant at home. Blueberries thrived in mountainous regions and could be made into delicious jam, so he had brought some buds for her to grow. The same applied to the cherry buds. Eavesdropping generously offered Qiao the opportunity to start planting them at home. If they thrived and survived, he would provide her with more. Qiao expressed her heartfelt gratitude for the thoughtful gifts. Sweet melons, essentially cantaloupes, didn't have their current name yet, as it would be coined in the future when they were introduced. The prospect of growing cherries and blueberries excited Qiao. She believed they would flourish in their care. With utmost care, Qiao took the precious gifts home, treasuring them like her most valuable possessions. Chapter 878. Surprise Udat by Zinval. This trip had been highly productive and fruitful for them. With the new year approaching, First Madam insisted they didn't stay for too long. She even invited them to join them after the new year, so they could travel with the business troops to the capital. Qiao and Shao expressed their gratitude and appreciation for the invitation. Traveling from the province to the capital couldn't be done by boat. It had to be done over land. The journey was long and required careful planning. They couldn't simply hire a single wagon and set off. It wasn't convenient or safe. There were unknown dangers that could be encountered along such a lengthy journey. What if they encountered robbers on the outskirts? It would spell doom for them. Typically, a group of friends would gather together and travel to the capital collectively for the examination. It provided a sense of security and reliability. Another option was to find a business troupe heading to the capital. By offering them gifts and presents, they could gain permission to join the troupe and travel together. Usually, the business troops would approve of such requests, as the recommended individuals traveling to the capital had the potential to become successful officials. This created a sense of indebtedness toward the troupe. However, most business troops didn't travel such long distances. They needed to make stops along the way to sell their goods, sometimes spending days in bustling cities. Unfortunately, recommended men heading to the capital couldn't afford such delays. Not everyone was fortunate enough to find a suitable business troupe for their journey. However, First Madam had made arrangements for them in the province. By the time Shao and Qiao returned home, it was already the 20th of December. They arrived just in time for the preparations for the upcoming new year. They had purchased a wide variety of exquisite and delicious snacks, including candies, candied fruits, and roasted seeds and nuts. The assortment included delicacies such as lotus cakes, mung bean cakes, cloud cakes, poria cakes, shortbread, small twists, dragon beard cakes, sweet-scented osmanthus sugar, peanut sesame candies, pine nuts, small walnuts, melon seeds, almonds, and more. Shao Sanlang and his wife were overjoyed to see these treats. Each person also received 6 new sets of clothes, including shoes and socks, as well as women's rouge, gouache, various silk flowers, children's spinning tops, clay figurines, cloth tigers, tumblers, wooden knives, swords, pony puppies, and various toys. Additionally, there were dried seafood and other household items. Qiao even purchased ornaments worth 200 to 300 liang for each girl in the family, including Shao Qing. Shao Junyan and his younger brother received a pair of golden bracelets and a golden key with jade. The first section of the family was ecstatic upon receiving these gifts. They spent half a day admiring and appreciating them. The next day, Qiao was eager to begin planting the blueberries and cherry trees alongside Qi, Taotao, and Yang Xiaoni in the empty space designated for cassava cultivation. The other family members understood that these were fruit trees from other regions, and they eagerly anticipated the prospect of enjoying the fruits in the coming year. Their motivation was high as they joined in the planting process. As they set to work, some passing villagers sneered, commenting that it wasn't the appropriate time for tree planting. They claimed that tree planting should commence after the Lantern Festival, when the weather becomes warmer, unless there was a sudden return of spring coldness. Qiao responded with a smile, countering their skepticism. Elle received these trees from a friend in the province. They were brought from outside the city. I can't just leave them sitting here. Who knows, they might actually survive. Chapter 879. Not Giving UDAT by Zinvel. Xiamyang Xiaoni and the others agreed, despite the unconventional timing for tree planting. Perhaps, just maybe, these trees could defy the odds and survive. With renewed enthusiasm, they quickly transported the straws and covered the seeds, exchanging smiles and saying, "All right, we've provided them with warmth. Yes, our trees should make it through the winter." Satisfied with their efforts, they happily returned home. Upon their return, Ms. Fang asked Yang Xiaoni to prepare some items for the third section of the family. Shao Yunduan and Qiao Xian had purchased a significant amount of goods in the province, and it was only fitting to share some gifts with the third section as a gesture of goodwill. Considering Shao Yunduan's promising future, it was unnecessary to quibble over such minor matters. It wouldn't be worth tarnishing their reputation over such trivialities. Ms. Fang selected pastries, dried fruits, simple garments, and elegant silk flowers for them. Ms. Ma, aware that Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan had returned from the province with 2 wagons full of items, expressed her gratitude and accepted the gifts. Shortly after Ms. Fang and Yang Xiaoni left, Ms. Ma started going through the presents and approached Ms. Niu, asking, "What did the first section of the family give you? Let me see them too." Confused, Ms. Niu responded, "What presents?" Ms. Ma pursed her lips. "Shao Yunduan went all the way to the province to buy things and gave some to us. Didn't they give you anything? They've become quite selective, haven't they? Traveling to the province just to buy things." She couldn't help but feel bitter as she thought about her hard-working son at home. Inwardly, she resolved that once her son became a recommended man, she would also hire a wagon and go to the province to buy things. Word spread quickly in the village, and Ms. Niu was well aware that Shao Yunduan and his wife had returned from the province. Her face twisted as she replied, "They didn't give us anything." Disappointed, Ms. Ma told Ms. Niu, "All right then, we'll talk about this tomorrow," and left. Ms. Niu eagerly anticipated the arrival of the first section of the family, but they never came. However, she soon spotted Xiao Xiaoji wearing a beautiful silk flower on her head, proudly showing it off to Shao Meiling, who became extremely angry. Ms. Niu shared this incident with her husband when he returned from visiting their neighbors. "That's outrageous. They gave presents to the third section of the family, but not us. They're looking down on us," he exclaimed. Second uncle grew annoyed and frowned as well. Ms. Niu couldn't tolerate it any longer. She believed that they deliberately excluded them, not because they were busy. "I can't tolerate this any longer. I'm going to go and talk to them." Ms. Niu exclaimed, her anger driving her to the first section of the family. Winter days grew darker earlier, and Qiao Xian was already preparing dinner. Even though it was only 4 o'clock, they had decided to have sauerkraut fish hot pot and pork belly chicken hot pot for dinner. Ms. Niu's arrival caught everyone's attention, as they were busy with the food preparations. Yang Xiaoni smiled and asked, "What's the matter, Auntie Niu?" Ms. Fang raised an eyebrow, her expression unkind. Ms. Niu became even more irritated upon hearing that strange title. "Honestly, sister-in-law." "Hey," Ms. Fang interjected. "Who's the sister-in-law here? Just call me Ms. Fang. We're no longer the way we used to be, and it's not appropriate to address each other like that, right?" Chapter 880. Not Your Elder Sister-in-Law Udat by Zinval. CM the others echoed her sentiments. "Ms. Niu. Ha, look at these daughter-in-laws. Are you really trying to start a fight here? Is it amusing? No one here is interested in starting a fight with you." Ms. Fang replied with a stern expression. "The family has already made it clear, and you can't ignore that. But it's a shame that you refuse to accept it. Furthermore, don't call me elder sister-in-law. It disgusts me." Ms. Fong would never consider her as a sister-in-law, especially after Ms. Niu tried to set up Taotao and forced her to marry someone they didn't approve of. Soon, Ms. Niu realized the reason behind it all. So you gave presents to the third section of the family and not us because of this? Yes, Ms. Fong replied bluntly. The third section of the family is part of our family, but you are just like any other villagers with the same surname. If I give presents to you, should I give presents to everyone else in the village too? We can't afford that. It doesn't work that way. Ms. Niu fell silent. Only now did she realize the distinction between being part of the family and being from the same clan. Her heart felt bitter. She simply couldn't accept it. Elder sister-in-law. Don't call me that. You're so cruel. We share the same in-laws. We're not ordinary clan members. Doesn't elder brother know about this? Ms. Fong sneered. You're not ordinary clan members, and even ordinary clan members wouldn't have tried to arrange a marriage for my Taotao. You want my husband? Go and confront him yourself if you dare. Ms. Fong dismissed her and drove her away after making her statement. Turning to the others, she said, Ignore her. Treat her like this from now on. She's nobody but someone from the clan. Ms. Niu felt as if she was going to faint and vented her frustration to second uncle. She grew increasingly infuriated by the situation. Second uncle turned pale as well, becoming lost in his thoughts. Others noticed that his anger seemed different now. Was the first section of the family truly serious about this? They had never believed it before, thinking that being brothers would prevent any change. However, the first section of the family had slapped them in the face. Times had changed. Meanwhile, Mrs. Yen and Shao Xiling had been visiting the Yen family, and Mrs. Yen had allowed them to stay for an extra half day. That's why they hadn't shown up until now. However, the couple was taken aback by the tense atmosphere at home. Ms. Yen inquired about what was happening. Ms. Niu had a lot to complain about to Ms. Yen, cursing the first section of the family for their actions. Deep inside, Ms. Yen smiled bitterly. If she had been at home today, she wouldn't have allowed her mother-in-law to confront the first section of the family about this. It was too humiliating. Mom, the clan has confirmed this, and our relationship has changed. Why bother? The decision of the clan is not something to be taken lightly. Ms. Niu shouted. So you think it's my fault? Ms. Yen silently agreed with that sentiment, but she replied, I'm just reminding you that the clan has made a decision, and the first section of the family agrees with it. There's no need to interrogate them any further. Second uncle angrily chimed in. That may be true, but it's going too far. That's exactly what I mean, Miss Yen added. They're angry after all. Chapter 881. Silence Udat by Zenval. CM, what are you blaming me for all the time? Ms. Niu snapped. It wasn't my fault with Taotao. It was that bitch Ms.Zhang. We already divorced and drove her out. What more do they want? Ms. Niu's eyes lit up. Let's go talk to eldest brother. Ms.Zhang has already been driven out, so we can ask eldest brother to inform the clan about this and put an end to it. We are a family, aren't we? We're not just ordinary people from the clan, are we? Ms. Fang's habit of giving presents to the third section of the family and ignoring the second section of the family would surely continue to happen in the future, and Ms. Niu wasn't going to tolerate it. Second uncle's eyes also lit up. That's true, it makes a lot of sense. Ms. Yen. Perhaps it was best for her to say nothing at all. Even Shao Xiling didn't think it was the right course of action. He tried to dissuade his mother, but ended up being scolded. This only made Ms. Yen even more speechless. She would observe how they would handle the situation, and potentially make it worse. Ms. Yen once again felt fortunate for having established a relationship with the first section of the family. Second uncle and Ms. Niu went to find eldest uncle without avoiding Ms. Fong and the rest of the family. They went to his place that very same night. Not in the mood to eat, they urged Ms. Yen to quickly prepare dinner, hastily ate some food, and hurried to eldest uncle's house. Upon arrival, they found that the first section of the family was already halfway through their hot pot feast. In the center of the large round table was a massive mandarin duck hot pot. A low stove with charcoal fire was placed in the recessed part of the middle, with the hot pot sitting flush with the tabletop. The sauerkraut fish pot and pork belly chicken pot were brimming with rich, white soup that bubbled and tumbled, emitting a steamy and fragrant aroma. The table was adorned with an abundance of fish balls, meatballs, lotus root balls, shrimp slips, fish fillets, squid rolls, yuba winter bamboo shoots, mushrooms, meat slices, egg dumplings, shredded vegetables, wax gourd slices, yam slices, taro slices, Chinese cabbage, lettuce and more, a truly lavish spread. Ms.Zhang and second uncle, who had lost their appetites earlier, suddenly felt their hunger intensify upon catching the tantalizing scent. They couldn't help but salivate at the sight of the food. Eldest uncle, unaware of what had transpired earlier, was pleased to see them. He beckoned them over. "Ah, there you are. Take a seat. Have you had dinner?" Ms. Fong mustered a forced smile and said, "Please take a seat. If you've already eaten, you can wait until we finish our meal. If not, I suggest you go home and eat before coming back." She made it clear that they were not welcome to join them. Both second uncle and Ms.Zhang blushed in embarrassment. How could they, who were already hungry, resist the tantalizing aroma of the delectable sauerkraut fish and chicken soup? The array of mouth-watering dishes left them captivated. Eldest uncle noticed their longing gazes and turned to young Xiaoni, instructing, "Ms. Zhang, please bring 2 bowls and 2 pairs of chopsticks." "Stop it," interrupted Ms. Fong calmly. "We won't share our food with such a malicious couple. I fear their presence will spoil everyone's appetite. I will always remember how they attempted to ruin my daughter's life. We cannot simply move past that." Eldest uncle froze and glanced at Taotao. His heart sank when he saw the sorrowful expression in Taotao's eyes. Qiao and second uncle's hunger intensified as they watched the delectable feast slip away from their grasp. "Elder sister-in-law." "Don't call me elder sister-in-law. It sounds dreadful. Just call me Ms. Fong." Chapter 882. Respect Udat by Zinval. CM. Taotao. Well, that was all Ms. Zhang's fault. She confessed to trying to manipulate us. We have already expelled her from our family, and we assure you that nothing like this will happen again. We sincerely apologize and let's put this behind us. After all, we are still a family, aren't we? Exactly. Ms. Fong had an overwhelming urge to strike the couple. Enough already. Ms. Fong retorted with disgust. Ms. Zhang attempted to manipulate you, and you fell for it. You are far from innocent. We are not a family, not even in your wildest dreams. Shao Yunduan interjected coldly. This is no laughing matter, Auntie Qiao and Uncle Shao. Please go home and refrain from bringing this up again. Yang Xiaoni rolled her eyes and said, Ms. Zhang had no authority over the family, yet you let her words sway you? How gullible. Qiao Xian sneered. That's how some people always are. They never take responsibility and always shift the blame onto others. They play the role of innocent victims, manipulated by someone else. Yang Xiaoni hesitated before adding, Indeed, no one forces such individuals to engage in wrongdoing. It's an absurd excuse. Qiao Xian chimed in. But certain individuals don't find it absurd. They genuinely believe they are misunderstood. That's shameless. So shameless to make such statements. Absolutely, we can't associate with people like this. They will only have a negative influence on us. And on our children too. Absolutely, you're absolutely right, fifth sister-in-law. I didn't even realize that. Everyone present. Ms. Qiao and second uncle's emotions were on the verge of exploding. You are showing us no respect. Eldest uncle couldn't bear it any longer. Ms. Qiao and Ms. Yang, please stop. Qiao Xian maintained a calm smile. Dad, third sister-in-law, and I were simply having a conversation. Since when did we show disrespect to anyone? And as for using names, did you assume we were referring to someone? Eldest uncle found himself at a loss for words. Ms. Fong burst into laughter. Ms. Qiao and Ms. Yang are absolutely right. Just leave right now, or I will personally escort you out. Xiao Xiaoqi waved his hands impatiently. If you keep coming to my family to cause trouble, don't expect any kindness from me. Elder brother, take a look at this. Get out. Ms. Fong snapped, and Xiao Sanlang and Xiao Xiaoqi stood up, forcefully removing second uncle from the premises. Eldest uncle put down his chopsticks, his face turning pale. I understand your anger, and 1am also concerned about Taotao. But it's not a major loss to us, and they know they are wrong. Why do you keep pressing them like this? Ms. Fong sneered. What's the use of saying that now? Perhaps you can advise them tomorrow to stay away from us. As for the rest, I couldn't care less. Xiao Yunduan's voice turned cold. Dad, we are just two ordinary families. If they continue to escalate things, I will never forgive them. Mom is right, we will never forget what happened to Taotao. Eldest uncle felt a heavy blow, glanced at them, and quietly left. Xiao Yunduan felt a sense of unease, but he knew he had to stay firm. He didn't expect his father to suddenly change his character or viewpoint, but he couldn't let him involve other family members in this situation. He had made up his mind to not offer them any more chances. Chapter 883. Not even his father Udat by Zinval. CM. In reality, the disputes between the second section of the family and the third section of the family were trivial matters driven by greed and unreasonable desires. However, when it came to the safety and well-being of his family members, Xiao Yunduan refused to back down. Even if it meant confronting his own father, he was prepared to do so. He had seen through his father's nature, or to put it more bluntly, his father would only recognize the danger when something irreversible happened. In that case, Xiao Yunduan hoped his father would remain blissfully ignorant. Ms. Fong reassured him. That old man has always been like this, but don't worry. I'm here, as are the land officer and the elderly men from the clan. Xiao Yunduan nodded, determined. One understand Niam. That's why he engaged in philanthropic activities such as donating fields and building schools and libraries. In doing so, he knew that the village would undoubtedly side with him and the first section of the family, unless he proved to be a truly malicious person beyond redemption. Before he departed for the capital, he planned to inform the land officer and the elderly men from the clan to take care of the family. With Mom as the pillar of strength, he wouldn't need to worry so much. They continued their meal, focusing on the food and temporarily setting aside the family conflicts. They had grown accustomed to elder uncle's occasional peculiar reactions, so it didn't affect their mood. They continued to enjoy their dinner, savoring the delicious food. Xiao Sanlang and Yang Xiaoni praised the delectable dishes, relishing the flavors as they consumed 2 bowls of soup each. Satisfied and satiated, they set down their chopsticks. With the new year approaching, 5th sister-in-law was preparing to accompany 5th brother on a trip to the capital. They wouldn't be able to return home for at least 6 months, and it was possible that Xiao Yunduan would also be assigned to work elsewhere. The absence of their cooking and presence would be felt. The next day, it was time for Xiao Yunduan and Qiao Xian to present gifts to County Magistrate Qiao, as they did every year. Following their usual practice, they didn't offer anything from their own home, but instead purchased various items in the county. Their financial situation was prosperous, although the exact extent of their wealth remained unknown. However, it was evident that they were not lacking in funds. This year, they bought an abundance of gifts, including 10 live chickens and 10 ducks, several packs of snacks, as well as tea and wine. They proudly displayed their offerings, and it was widely acknowledged that recommended man Shao and second Miss deeply cared for their family. Xiao Yunduan and Qiao Xian couldn't help but feel a sense of betrayal from their own family, especially considering the way Madame Qiao and Officer Qiao treated them during the visit. Officer Qiao appeared visibly uncomfortable, while Madame Qiao feigned illness. Qiao Wei dutifully attended to her mother, choosing to remain absent as well. Even concubine Du and Qiao Ko seemed to conveniently disappear whenever Madame Qiao was not around. What made the situation even more absurd was that after Qiao Xian expressed her dissatisfaction with Madame Qiao, Officer Qiao actually acknowledged some of her grievances. This led to a heated argument between the couple and exposed deeper issues within their marriage. As a result, Officer Qiao decided to improve his treatment of concubine Du and Qiao Ko, rather than mistreating them. However, he inadvertently discovered that Madame Qiao had unjustly taken away concubine Du's private savings. This revelation filled him with fury, leading to a confrontation with Madame Qiao. In an attempt to make amends, Officer Qiao compensated concubine Du with 6 fine garments, 5 or 6 pieces of jadeware, and 400 liang as restitution for her loss. Madame Qiao, as the head of the family, was expected to bear the responsibility for her actions, and the humiliation she caused concubine Du. Returning the items was akin to admitting fault and acknowledging her wrongdoing. Chapter 884. Madame Qiao Udat by Zinval. The compensation provided by Officer Qiao seemed to have a positive effect. Both concubine Du and her daughter were overjoyed and grateful for the gesture. Madame Qiao and Qiao Wei, on the other hand, were seething with anger. They felt that they had been openly humiliated and disrespected. While Officer Qiao believed that he had salvaged his wife's reputation, Madame Qiao saw it as a direct affront. She couldn't fathom how concubine Du, who held a lower status in the household, could be treated with such favoritism. Before Madame Qiao could even contemplate taking revenge on concubine Du, her daughter Qiao Wei, driven by her own foolishness, stooped to picking on Qiao Ko. It was an opportunity too tempting for Qiao Ko to pass up. She skillfully played the victim, shedding tears in front of County Magistrate Qiao, ultimately resulting in Qiao Wei's punishment. County Magistrate Qiao, now exasperated with Madame Qiao, voiced his dissatisfaction with her lack of kindness and proper manners. He felt that she was undeserving of her position as the lineal mother, as she had failed to guide and nurture not only Qiao Xian but also Qiao Ko. Furthermore, County Magistrate Qiao declared that Madame Qiao would no longer have any involvement in concubine Du or Qiao Ko's affairs, including Qiao Ko's marriage. Once they moved to the capital, he planned to seek the assistance of his mother and sisters-in-law in finding a suitable match for Qiao Ko. Madame Qiao erupted in fury and engaged in a heated argument with her husband. She saw herself as the lineal mother, and the fact that she couldn't even arrange a suitable suitor for the daughter of a concubine was a humiliating blow to her status and authority. She felt like a complete laughingstock. Madame Qiao had envisioned making a grand entrance when returning to the capital, but with the current situation, it would be a humiliating affair. She couldn't bear the thought of such embarrassment befalling her. Mother? Sister-in-laws? The so-called Madame Qiao Sr. in the capital was not County Magistrate Qiao's biological mother, and they shared no close bond whatsoever. Besides, if they were to discover the truth, Madame Qiao would lose any position she held in their hearts. However, County Magistrate Qiao was genuinely angered this time. He treated Madame Qiao with cold indifference and refused to back down. But so what if she wasn't his real mother? She had raised him as her own, practically fulfilling a mother's role. At the very least, she had never mistreated him, unlike his wife, who showed such cruelty towards the daughter of a concubine. Madame Qiao's irritation grew, leading her to feign illness as the new year approached. She avoided taking on any responsibilities in the mansion, curious to witness the chaos that would ensue in her absence. Her pretense of illness served a dual purpose, not only to avoid encountering Qiao Xian, but also to test the waters of the mansion without her leadership. County Magistrate Qiao sensed the chilly reception from both Shao Yunduan and Qiao Xian. He felt a sense of guilt and discontent in his heart. While Qiao Xian had endured mistreatment, County Magistrate Qiao was still her father. No child would easily blame their own father for anything. He had indeed raised her, hadn't he? Yes, it was fortunate that they had eventually found a suitable suitor for her. Furthermore, she was not entirely blameless in this situation. County Magistrate Qiao had been occupied with numerous banquets, and had little time to attend to domestic affairs. Had she spoken up and sought his assistance from the beginning, he would have come to her aid. But she chose to remain silent. How unreasonable of her to now blame him for her own silence. He had taken action by punishing his wife and treating his daughter well, hoping to demonstrate his favor towards her. Yet, she continued to lay blame and even displayed an air of superiority before him. How heartless. County Magistrate Qiao felt a mixture of anger and disappointment as these thoughts raced through his mind. However, Qiao Xian seemed unfazed by his emotions. She soon smiled and expressed her desire to visit Madame Qiao. Madame Qiao was unwell, and needed to be shown concern. Upon hearing the way she referred to Madame Qiao, County Magistrate Qiao seized the opportunity to remark, regardless of what has transpired between you two, she is still your lineal mother. You will have plenty of chances to see each other in the capital. If you address her in such a manner, people will ridicule you for being disrespectful. Chapter 885. Unimportant Udat by Zinval. CM Qiao Xian found amusement in the situation. One don't mind being the subject of laughter. When people inquire why I address her that way, I can simply tell them the truth. It's a fact, isn't it? There's no need to hide it. Father, please don't make things difficult for me. I cannot bring myself to call her mother. She has been too malicious for me to do so at this moment. Enough! County Magistrate Qiao's anger surged as he snapped. What are you talking about? Your mother has found you a good suitor, and you should express your gratitude to her. The past is in the past, and you are doing well now. What more do you want? Are you blaming me as well, father? Qiao Xian was about to respond when Shao Yunduan interjected. Whether my wife forgives you or not is inconsequential. County Magistrate Qiao was taken aback, suddenly realizing that he may have misspoke. If he were to ask for forgiveness, did that imply an admission of guilt? He was her father, and he believed he had done nothing wrong. Parents held the utmost authority in a family. He had given her life, raised her, and secured a good marriage for her. Everything seemed perfectly reasonable. He saw no fault in his actions. County Magistrate Qiao promptly aligned himself with the perception of reason, standing tall. Shao Yunduan didn't let the matter rest. Father-in-law, if you genuinely seek my wife's forgiveness, you should ask for it, shouldn't you? Ask for forgiveness? County Magistrate Qiao was far from pleased. Why must he ask Qiao Xian for forgiveness? I am her father. Qiao Xian sneered, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Indeed, and that's why we need to put on a good show, at the very least. County Magistrate Qiao's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean by that? Shao Yunduan stood his ground. That is precisely what we mean. You. County Magistrate Qiao trembled, a mix of surprise and anger coursing through him. A good show? Yunduan, do you even understand what you're saying? You're not even an official yet, and you're trying to distance yourself from me? Do you realize how difficult it is to succeed in government without any connections? County Magistrate Qiao was both furious and scornful. He had expected this son-in-law of his to be of assistance, but here he was, slipping away before even joining their ranks. This impractical man wouldn't go far in life. I don't care about being an official. I care about my wife. When Shao Yunduan uttered those words, County Magistrate Qiao instantly lost interest. His disappointment grew, and he began to look down on him. How lacking in ambition. How narrow-minded. Well, he was from the countryside after all. His horizons were limited. He didn't understand how to strive for progress, and mistakenly believed he had reached the pinnacle by becoming a mere recommended man. County Magistrate Qiao sneered, feeling that he had misjudged Shao Yunduan. What a short-sighted and absurd man. In that instant, County Magistrate Qiao gave up on Shao Yunduan. He had contemplated teaching him the ways of an official in the government office, even considering providing him with a recommendation letter to meet the Qiao family in the capital, or relying on their support. However, his interest waned completely. Let this man encounter difficulties in the capital. Only then would he understand the challenges a real official must face. At that time, he would come to realize the childishness and absurdity of his current words and actions. Chapter 886. Building Bridge Udat by Zinval. CM the county magistrate sneered inwardly, quietly remarking, Your mother is unwell, so we won't keep you for lunch. Qiao Xian, go visit your mother and then you may leave. Okay. Qiao Xian smiled, stood up, and paid no attention to his sudden coldness, causing County Magistrate Qiao to feel a sense of futility in his actions. Shao Yunduan chimed in. Sweetheart, hurry up. I'm waiting for you here. Let's go home as soon as possible, it's getting cold. Okay. The two exchanged a glance and smiled, completely disregarding County Magistrate Qiao. County Magistrate Qiao couldn't help but feel an urge to curse. Very well, he would witness their failure. When Qiao Xian arrived at the courtyard, the maid passed on the message to Madame Qiao. After waiting for a while without her appearing, Qiao Xian couldn't help but grin. This lineal mother of hers was playing the same tricks she always did. Was she purposefully avoiding her to create a scene? Qiao Xian entered directly. Madame Qiao wasn't actually ill. Even if she was feeling unwell, it was primarily due to County Magistrate Qiao's attitude towards her. She sat on the bed, looking pale and with hair loss, far from her former elegance. Qiao Wei was seated beside her, complaining about something, likely involving Qiao Ko and concubine Du. As Qiao Xian walked in, Qiao Wei shrieked, "Why did you enter? You're not allowed." Qiao Xian smiled. Elle came to greet Madame Qiao and see how she is doing. It appears that Madame Qiao is in good health, so I will take my leave now. Qiao Wei stood there, unsure of what to do next. Madame Qiao wore a sinister expression. "Stop. Is there something you want to say, Madame Qiao?" "Hehe, Qiao Xian, do you think you're satisfied?" Madame Qiao sneered. "Your words from before have made the old master care about concubine Du and Qiao Ko. He gives them everything, while you have received nothing." Qiao Wei also sneered with anger. "She deserves nothing. Father has never shown any affection towards her, not in the past, not now. She's just trying to gain favor, a pitiful person serving us." "A pitiful person?" Qiao Xian smiled and intentionally raised her wrist, caressing the emerald bracelet adorning it. "My husband is the provincial champion, and he my mother-in-law, and my sister-in-laws all treat me exceptionally well. Elder Aunt Qiao regards me as her own daughter. Are you absurd enough to think I envy Qiao Ko?" Qiao Wei became infuriated, panting heavily. Qiao Xian was so vexing. No wonder she had never liked her. Madame Qiao felt a pang in her heart, sneering. "You certainly know how to harm others and benefit yourself." "Harm others? Who have I harmed?" Madame Qiao was taken aback by Qiao Xian's words. Indeed, it was her that Qiao Xian was referring to, but she couldn't admit it, or she would be admitting defeat in this battle. Qiao Xian smiled. "Not harming you, right? Madame Qiao, Qiao Ko addresses your mother, and I'm sure you have affection for her as well." Madame Qiao remained silent. Qiao Wei could no longer tolerate it. "Just leave." Qiao Xian stood up and smiled. "My husband is waiting for me, and my mother-in-law is eagerly awaiting my return for the meal. My brother-in-law has just hunted a wild deer. So tonight we'll be enjoying braised venison, stir-fried venison, and deer bone stew, very fresh and delicious. Tomorrow, we'll be grilling the rest. Indeed, it's time for me to go home." Chapter 887. Not Lying Udat by Zinvel. CM Madame Qiao, please take care of yourself. Remember, Qiao Ko is not yet married, and she could use your support and guidance. You. Qiao Xian's words pierced Madame Qiao's heart, leaving her furious and distressed. However, she refused to let it bother her. Her intention was to provoke Madame Qiao, and seeing her infuriated brought her immense satisfaction. It also whetted her appetite for dinner. She is so malicious. Qiao Wei blurted out, stumbling over her words. "No wonder I despise her, always have. Did you see that, Mom? She has never been this irritating before. I should have dealt with her even more harshly earlier. Dear meat?" She was just boasting. Qiao Wei reminisced about the time when her father's servant hunted a deer and gifted them over 10 kilograms of meat. She was enchanted by its taste, and the memory lingered in her mind. She couldn't believe that Qiao Xian's brother-in-law could obtain deer meat. The idea seemed far-fetched to her. Madame Qiao's expression darkened. She couldn't fathom that Qiao Xian would lie about such a matter. If Qiao Xian truly had a skillful brother-in-law who could hunt deer, it implied that he possessed exceptional hunting abilities and could provide them with a variety of wild game regularly. Deer were notoriously challenging to hunt due to their cautiousness and swiftness. If Qiao Xian's brother-in-law could catch a deer, he would surely be capable of capturing smaller animals as well. Yet, Qiao Xian had never brought any wild animal for them. Even if she claimed that her brother-in-law had acquired the deer the previous day, There was no evidence of it in the gifts she presented to them today. Madame Qiao, filled with annoyance, turned to Auntie Ling and commanded, "Inform the old master about what Qiao Xian said to us." "Yes, Madame Qiao." Auntie Ling was skilled in stoking the flames, and she was determined to do just that. Word of this quickly reached County Magistrate Qiao's ears. He learned that Qiao Xian's brother-in-law possessed exceptional hunting skills, resulting in their consumption of wild game throughout the year. Furthermore, it was reported that he had recently captured a wild deer. However, neither his daughter nor his son-in-law had considered offering any of it to him as a gift. County Magistrate Qiao's fury swelled upon hearing this news. Initially, he contemplated sending someone to investigate the matter, but he quickly dismissed the idea. What purpose would it serve to delve into such a matter? Discovering the truth would be utterly humiliating. Moreover, the story held an air of believability. He had underestimated them. Qiao Xian had never been one to display modesty or honesty. She harbored numerous ulterior motives, and his wife's judgment of her had never been wrong. He decided to wait and see what Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan would do next. He was confident that they would eventually come begging at his door, seeking his assistance. So County Magistrate Qiao, who had been persuaded by Madame Qiao, wrote one letter to the Qiao family in the capital, telling them to look into Shao Yunduan and give him a hard time. Shao Yunduan and Qiao Xian left the mansion, and Shao Yunduan took Qiao Xian's hands, saying, "What about eating at Restaurant Yanha? Then we can go home after that." Qiao Xian nodded with a smile. "Sure, I want the crispy duck from there. Let's take one portion home." The couple did not ask for a separate room after going into the restaurant, but chose a place in the hall. Many people recognized Shao Yunduan, as did the manager of the restaurant, who greeted him happily. Shao Yunduan and Qiao Xian went to the in-laws' family to give presents, but they did not even get to eat lunch at home. Soon the story would go that the couple were forced to eat at a restaurant. Chapter 888. Purpose Udat by Zinval. CM That was the reason Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan chose to have lunch at this particular restaurant. It hadn't crossed Qiao Xian's mind until they sat down and began ordering. She suddenly realized, "Oh, 1C. She then smiled at Shao Yunduan. Shao Yunduan lightly pinched her wrist and whispered, "He initiated this first, and we have nothing to hide. Well, let him experience what it feels like to have no defense." Qiao Xian's heart warmed, and she smiled. "Darling, your words make me even hungrier. We're definitely going to indulge in more delicious food later." Shao Yunduan chuckled. "All right. I'll have an extra bowl of rice with you. Let's order 2 additional dishes." Qiao Xian laughed and nodded. "Sounds good. A celebration indeed." "Absolutely." They exchanged smiles. After finishing their lunch, they packed a portion of crispy duck to take home, and leisurely made their way back. As expected, news of this incident spread throughout the town. People were fond of hearing and discussing gossip related to officials' families, often sharing such information among themselves. 3 days later, County Magistrate Qiao learned about the incident from a reluctant informant. Anger surged within him, clogging his chest. Those 2 wretches. They must have done this deliberately. They were intentionally tarnishing his reputation. County Magistrate Qiao had never anticipated that this couple possessed so many tricks, successfully setting him up without revealing their hand. Pay a visit to Shouting Village. Never mind, I'll see what else they're capable of. Bah, I shouldn't dwell on this. County Magistrate Qiao sneered, knowing that he would soon be transferred back to the capital. This country was far removed from the capital, so the story wouldn't reach there. Their tricks would have no practical impact on his reputation, except perhaps in his own mind for a brief moment. It was all utterly useless. How dare Shao Yunduan engage in such futile endeavors? He had overestimated him in the past. Little did he know that Shao Yunduan was laying the groundwork for a larger scheme, by starting with these small actions. Shao Yunduan and Qiao Xian aimed to sever all ties with County Magistrate Qiao and the Qiao family, so that they could separate completely. Even if a major incident were to occur eventually, no one would be able to morally condemn them, thanks to the foundation they had built through these minor actions. If the world came to know that County Magistrate Qiao and Madame Qiao had never truly cared about or treated them as part of the family, dealing with the situation would be much easier. Qiao Xian was elated that County Magistrate Qiao had been ensnared. More importantly, she was grateful to have someone who protected and defended her, a feeling she relished. As for her father, she knew he would despise her for orchestrating all of this. But that was precisely what she intended. The ancestors were honored with tribute during the Minor New Year, and now the eve of the New Year had arrived. The first section of the family celebrated New Year's Eve in solitude. Shao Yunduan was preparing to travel to the capital to take part in the spring examination, while Qi was set to join the army. It would be a considerable amount of time before the entire family could be reunited in one place. As a result, they were eagerly anticipating this year's dinner together. Eldest uncle had initially planned to gather all three branches of the family for a joyous and lively celebration. However, various circumstances arose, leading to the second branch being estranged from the family, and it wouldn't be appropriate for the third branch to celebrate alone. Thus, eldest uncle chose not to bring up the idea. On New Year's Eve, the family members were engaged in putting up couplets, hanging paper cuttings, displaying auspicious words, and hanging lanterns. The atmosphere was filled with anticipation and happiness. Chapter 889. Extra Many People Udat by Zinval. Ms.Zhang graciously assisted Taotao and Ms.Zhang in creating paper cuttings, including designs such as 5 blessings for longevity, good grains, more than every year, precious flowers and birds, pomegranate vase, peonies blooming, birds and flowers, magpies and plum blossoms. Nice. Yen possessed great skill in this craft. With paper in one hand and scissors in the other, she swiftly brought forth intricate and beautiful patterns. The rest of the family admired her talent and craftsmanship. The paper cuttings adorning the glazed windows appeared stunning, each lifelike and displaying a variety of patterns and designs. A string of red lanterns hung gracefully under the eaves of the corridor. Round in shape, neither too big nor too small, they were adorned with golden tassels. When lit at night, their gentle red glow cast an auspicious and festive ambience throughout the courtyard. Shao Yunduan took on the task of writing the couplets, meticulously crafting them on red paper. Over the years, Shao Yunduan had shouldered this responsibility. In fact, he had even helped numerous villagers with their couplets as well. This year, many people sought his assistance. After all, Shao Yunduan was no longer just a cultivated talent. He had achieved the esteemed title of provincial champion. Though the act of writing remained the same, the significance held greater weight. Couplets penned by a provincial champion undoubtedly brought more auspiciousness than those written by a cultivated talent. Furthermore, if Shao Yunduan were to ascend to the ranks of an advanced scholar or become an official, he would not readily distribute couplets. Perhaps only the land officer and certain elderly men within the clan would receive them, while other families would refrain from making such requests out of respect for government officials. However, Shao Yunduan did not decline any requests this time. The atmosphere in the village was filled with joy and excitement as people gathered around a table that was brimming with guests. There was a constant flow of visitors entering and leaving the first branch of the family's house. In the past, some individuals would seek out Shao Lulang to write couplets alongside Shao Yunduan. As a result, Shao Lulang would receive more guests. This was because the first branch of the family never boasted about Shao Yunduan, while Ms. Ma and third uncle continuously praised Shao Lulang. This led people to believe that he was superior to Shao Yunduan, resulting in more guests seeking his services. However, no one approached the third branch of the family to request couplets. Honestly, couplets written by someone who hadn't passed the examination were never on par with those crafted by a provincial champion. Only those lacking discernment would seek couplets from someone other than the provincial champion. Ms. Ma and third uncle had eagerly anticipated villagers seeking their couplets, as it was a day they took immense pride in. They simply relished the praise and the sight of others feeling envious. But this year, no one came knocking on their door, and as they saw two individuals walking by, it soon became apparent that they were merely passers-by. The couple grew increasingly frustrated. "Don't you need couplets?" they grumbled. What nonsense! It was clear to them that everyone was headed to the first branch of the family to acquire couplets. The villagers were all so eager and interested. The couple muttered curses under their breath, their worry for their son weighing heavily on their minds. Indeed, Xiao Lulang wore a frown as he surveyed the empty courtyard. Despite being up early that day, he couldn't help but feel disappointed. After all, he had secluded himself in his room for days. Chapter 890. Interest Seeker Udat Bisenval. CM instantly, Ms. Ma grew concerned. "Lulang, it would be best if those people weren't here. They would only disrupt your focused study." "How irritating." Xiao Lulang sneered, fully aware of what was happening. Ms. Ma's worry deepened at his reaction. "They look down on us, those seekers of attention. None of them are deserving of our presence. When you achieve success, they will come begging at our doorstep, and that's when I'll teach them a lesson they won't forget." "Lulang, ignore them. Don't let it bother you," Ms. Ma advised. Xiao Lulang suppressed his anger and irritation, his sneer growing darker. "They are nobody. I don't care about them in the slightest." With that he turned around, entered his room, and slammed the door shut. Ms. Ma and second uncle exchanged concerned and worried glances. They sighed and continued to curse the villagers under their breath. Xiao Xiaoji observed the scene for a while, pursed her lips and spoke up. "But we don't have any couplets or happiness writings yet. Are we not going to hang any?" Ms. Ma and third uncle exchanged a telling look. That was true. They had neglected to prepare anything for themselves. Of course, they needed to hang some for the new year to attract auspiciousness. Usually, Xiao Lulang took charge of this task, but this year, with the somber expression on their son's face and his obvious bad mood, neither of them dared to ask him to come and write couplets. So, were they going to seek help from the first section of the family for this matter? In that way, they would further dampen their son's spirits. After contemplating for a while, the couple decided to send third uncle to the town to bring back a couplet for their home. In the afternoon, when Xiao Lulang emerged from his room and noticed the couplets hanging on the door, he immediately flew into a rage. However, his anger subsided upon learning that they were provided by the county. They would never allow anything written by Xiao Yunduan to be displayed on their door. Meanwhile, Xiao Yunduan spent half a day diligently crafting couplets for the villagers. Ms. Fang grew increasingly concerned about her son's well-being. After lunch, the entire family busied themselves with the preparations for the New Year's Eve feast. They had an abundance of food stocked at home. And this year, the dishes on the table were set to be even more plentiful and exquisite. They had commenced the preparations 2 days earlier, with Qiao Xian suggesting various dishes. After deliberations among the family members, they finalized the menu. The grand finale of the evening's feast was the Buddha jumping over the wall, a dish brimming with delicacies from both land and sea, boasting vibrant colors and enticing aromas. Other dishes included salt-baked chicken, braised carp, chicken nuggets with soft-shelled turtle, and pan-fried lamb chops. The table was adorned with a wide array of culinary delights. As night descended, everyone gathered around the steaming dining table in the restaurant. 2 large covered charcoal pots burned inside the room, emanating a comforting warmth. The charcoal used was the special silver frost coal bestowed upon them by First Madam, which they rarely utilized. This type of coal produced no smoke or odor. To enhance the festive atmosphere, they uncorked a jar of fine wine. With the exception of the 3 children, everyone else was served a glass. "Let us celebrate joyously, and may prosperity befall us all." With cups raised, the heartfelt toast evoked tears in Ms. Fang's eyes. As the new year commenced, her 2 sons were embarking on their respective paths, and although she felt immense pride, she couldn't help but feel a tinge of longing. Though they were all aware of the impending separation, nobody mentioned it. They savored the delectable dishes and engaged in cheerful conversations, discussing their plans for financial success. Chapter 891. New Year Udat Bisenval. CM after dinner, they cleared the food table, and some visitors arrived, engaging in pleasant conversations. Ms. Fang instructed Yang Xiaoni and Taotao to serve snacks, warmly welcoming the guests. Shao Sanlang and Shao Dalong had also stepped out to greet others. As for eldest uncle, he was absent. Nobody mentioned his whereabouts, neither in the second nor the third section of the family. Xiao Yunduan wasn't fond of idle chatter. After exchanging a few words with Qiao Xian, he led Qi to his study, urging him to continue his studies and providing him with instructions. Qi had been diligently studying in recent days. Qiao Xian remained in the hall, engaging in lively discussions with Ms. Fang and Ms. Su. She listened to various gossip about other families from her aunts, brothers-in-law, and other relatives. While she didn't consider them entirely reliable, it was entertaining to hear. As the evening grew darker, guests came and went, bringing liveliness to the household. It wasn't until it was time to light the firecrackers that the visiting neighbors bid their farewells and departed. Shao Sanlang and the rest of the family returned as well. Around midnight, the first crackle of firecrackers ignited, serving as a signal for others. Suddenly, the village was filled with the explosive sounds of firecrackers. The sky was ablaze with vibrant bursts of light, their crisp sounds echoing and intensifying the festive spirit. New Year has arrived. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Wishing you a safe and joyous New Year, with even better days to come. We will surely have an even better year. They exchanged auspicious greetings, sowing seeds of happiness within their hearts. Returning home, the younger members of the family greeted the elders for the new year, and in return, the elders gifted them red packets. They then proceeded to make and enjoy dumplings together. With the conclusion of the celebration and the dumpling feast, they bid each other good night, eagerly anticipating the dawn of the new day. Xiao Yunduan and Qiao Xian walked home together, but as they did, snowflakes began to fall gently from the sky. The delicate snowflakes drifted down silently from the vast expanse above. They were sparse and light, disappearing upon touching the ground as if they had never existed. It's snowing. Wow. Look at the snow. People around them noticed and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, some even whistling with delight. It was a rare sight for them, something worthy of celebration. It's snowing. Qiao Xian reached out to feel the cool touch on her hands, leaning towards Xiao Yunduan with a smile. A heavy snowfall at the new year is considered an auspicious sign. Yes, Xiao Yunduan replied with a gentle smile, helping her adjust her clothing. May all our wishes come true this year. Qiao Xian's smile brightened even more. You will undoubtedly become an advanced scholar. Xiao Yunduan returned the smile. Thank you, my beloved. But his desires went beyond that. He yearned for a true wedding night with her, once he achieved his desired title. He wanted no one but her to be by his side for the rest of his days. His gaze burned with intensity, and his fingertips held an unspoken tenderness. Qiao Xian sensed something in his eyes, and she felt a warmth spreading across her cheeks. Gradually, that warmth intensified, making her blush with bashfulness. Chapter 892. Not Ready Udat by Zinval. Xiao Xian cast her gaze downward, her heart pounding in her chest. Suddenly, she felt Xiao Yunduan's warm hand enveloping hers. A rush of heat surged through her hand, causing her cheeks to flush instantly. Darling! Xiao Yunduan's soft laughter filled the air, causing Qiao Xian to startle. Instinctively, she withdrew her hand, mumbling, "It's getting late. Let's just go to bed." She didn't want to hear what he had to say next. Whatever it was, she wasn't ready to face it yet. Okay. Xiao Yunduan chuckled. It is getting late, let's rest. Qiao Xian felt a tinge of strangeness in his words. She hadn't meant anything other than going to sleep, but his tone seemed to imply something more. Her blush deepened, and she shot him a playful glare before turning away and leaving. Xiao Yunduan chuckled softly. Qiao Xian's face grew even hotter. She hurriedly increased her pace, slamming the door shut behind her. Xiao Yunduan looked up at the dark sky, a contented smile on his lips, and made his way to the bedroom. After all, she was his wife, and there was no need to rush. On the first day of the new year, joyous greetings filled the air as relatives paid their annual visits. Fang had anticipated a large number of relatives visiting them this year, so she quickly prepared herself and her daughters-in-law for the occasion. She also gave instructions to her sons and daughters-in-law on how to handle themselves. The most important rule was not to make any promises or misuse their power in a way that would tarnish Xiao Yunduan's reputation. On the second day of the new year, Ms. Fang, as the mother-in-law, allowed her daughters-in-law to visit their respective homes, but she herself did not return to her own home. Qiao Xian, not bound by tradition, chose to stay at home instead. Only Ms. Su Xiaodalong and their 3 children went back to Ms. Su's home for a visit. From the third day of the new year onward, various relatives and friends began to visit their household. Anais, Fang warmly welcomed them together with her daughters-in-law. Some visitors flattered her with gifts, and she would assist those genuinely in need of help due to poverty. However, she made sure to write an IOU note whenever money was lent out. There were also those who inquired about their properties, a topic that disgusted Ms. Fang, who attempted to divert their attention elsewhere. Some individuals, driven by greed, attempted to engage in business deals with Ms. Fang, but she firmly declined their offers. Most people understood when their persuasion was ineffective and stopped pushing further. However, there were a few audacious ones who resorted to threats against Ms. Fang. Unfazed by their intimidation, she stood her ground and even retorted on occasion. Their actions had offended certain individuals, who took the opportunity to spread complaints about their family. They accused Ms. Fang and her family of neglecting their relatives now that they had wealth. Ms. Fang chose to disregard these baseless accusations. Nevertheless, they couldn't sacrifice their own family's well-being just to please distant relatives. On the 5th day of the new year, Madame Qiao sent someone to fetch Qiao Xian, informing her of an important guest at their home, and requesting her presence to receive them for a few days. Chapter 893. Qiao Mansion Udat by Zinval. CM She was the only one invited, not Xiao Yunduan. Xiao Yunduan was very worried. He held Qiao Xian's hands tightly, expressing his disapproval of her going alone. Don't feel at ease with you going to the mansion. What if something happens to you? Xiao Yunduan had no trust in Madame Qiao whatsoever. He couldn't fathom the actions of a person like her. His wife was kind and gentle, and if she went to the Qiao family alone, she would be like a lamb in a tiger's den. Spending the night there was out of the question, as she would be devoured. If you insist on going, I will accompany you. He didn't believe that the Qiao family would dare to push him away, even if he were there. Seeing Qiao Xian's concern for him, he smiled. Darling, don't worry. I will go alone. I want to see what they are up to. I will take good care of myself. Remember, I am the wife of the provincial champion, and they wouldn't dare lay a finger on me. Xiao Yunduan still didn't agree. He furrowed his brow. Don't trust Madame Qiao. She was so wicked that she had even attempted murder. There was nothing she wouldn't do. Officer Qiao is a reasonable man. He won't let her do anything foolish. Xiao Yunduan was taken aback. That was true. Yet he still couldn't put his mind at ease. Helpless, Qiao Xian approached him and whispered, I have bribed 2 individuals who will assist me. Don't worry, one will find out what Madame Qiao is capable of. Xiao Yunduan remained silent, but refused to let her go alone. He ordered Li Xia and Li Qiao to accompany her. However, Qiao Xian insisted on bringing only Li Xia with her. She was not a feeble woman. If Madame Qiao did not want to provoke her, then she would teach her a lesson she would never forget. Qiao Xian possessed magical powers, and could wield them as a deadly weapon at any moment. She had no fear of someone like Madame Qiao, a mere clown. It seemed that Madame Qiao attached great importance to this esteemed guest, as she sent Auntie Ling to fetch her. Xiao Yunduan was determined to separate Qiao Xian from them, to have her alone. Li Xia, in Auntie Ling's eyes, was just an insignificant maid. Auntie Ling paid her no mind, as long as Xiao Yunduan wasn't accompanying them. Xiao Yunduan guided Qiao Xian into the carriage, and only released her hands after a long while. He emphasized, Take good care of yourself, and above all, ensure your safety. I will come to pick you up in 2 days. Qiao Xian obediently nodded. Don't worry, my husband. Auntie Ling maintained a neutral expression on her face, though inwardly she felt a sense of disdain. Madame Qiao was not foolish. She wouldn't engage in something so unreasonable at this moment. This provincial champion was far too inexperienced to face this situation. Inside the wagon, Auntie Ling sat beside Qiao Xian, her eyes lowered, showing no intention of engaging in conversation. Qiao Xian remained composed and paid no attention to Auntie Ling Lixia. Aware of the animosity between her young madam and the Qiao family, felt a twinge of nervousness. She cautiously glanced at Auntie Ling, but quickly averted her gaze. Upon arriving at the Qiao mansion, Auntie Ling led Qiao Xian and her maid to the courtyard, set down the luggage, and went to meet Madame Qiao. Madame Qiao was engaged in conversation with a lady of similar age, while Qiao Wei and a few maids from both sides were also present. Chapter 894. At a loss Udat by Zinval. As Qiao Xian entered, 7 or 8 pairs of eyes turned towards her, giving her a meaningful gaze. The Qiao family was clearly conveying a message through their looks. Qiao Wei wore a proud expression on her face, relishing in Qiao Xian's discomfort. Qiao Xian couldn't comprehend the situation. She just couldn't grasp it. With outsiders present, everyone maintained a facade of respect towards one another. Qiao Xian stopped fixating on Madame Qiao and greeted her with a smile. Madame Qiao reciprocated the greeting and introduced the lady. "This is Madame Tang, you can address her as Auntie. Madam, this is my second daughter, Qiao Xian. I apologize for not raising her properly." Madame Tang forced a smile. "Madame Qiao, you jest," Qiao Wei interjected. "Yes, mother, it's all a matter of destiny." "Qiao Wei, enough," Madame Qiao snapped, giving her a stern glare. Qiao Xian was bewildered. She didn't care for the enigmatic conversation, but she greeted Madame Tang politely. Madame Tang returned the smile and Madame Qiao instructed her to take a seat. The two ladies engaged in polite conversation while Qiao Wei and Qiao Xian sat next to them. Out of the blue, Madame Qiao smiled and asked, "When is Shao Yunduan leaving for the capital? I've prepared his luggage, but I can't recall if he's missing anything. He's been working diligently at home lately." With a smile, Madame Tang joined the conversation, sharing stories and expressing concerns about their respective sons. Qiao Wei, wearing a smile, suggested, "Since County Magistrate Yang is also in the capital for the examination, Auntie Tang must have valuable experience. Why not seek her advice and save myself some trouble in the province?" Qiao Xian was slightly taken aback by Qiao Wei's suggestion. She couldn't help but glance at Madame Tang. To be honest, Qiao Xian didn't sense any hostility from Madame Tang, but there was a certain probing quality to her demeanor that seemed somewhat unnatural. Qiao Xian found herself puzzled by the situation. Although Qiao Wei's suggestion was tempting, Qiao Xian believed that with the presence of the Xie family and the Yuezheng family, she had no need to seek Madame Tang's help. Also, she did not think that Qiao Wei would help her out of kindness. Qiao Xian had no idea what the mother and daughter were up to, so she stayed silent, smiled, and lowered her eyes. Madame Qiao smiled. "Our Xian is a shy girl. If Madame Tang is willing to teach her, it would be an honor for her." Madame Tang couldn't tolerate it any longer. She forced a smile. "I'll recall that the Qiao family is from the capital, and we need not go through so much trouble. When we are in the capital, the Qiao family will take care of us, and we will be cautious. I didn't come here to say anything." "Of course, if you need any advice, second miss, I will share everything I know." Madame Qiao laughed. "That's true, I apologize." "All right, Xian, go and take a break. I will have someone fetch you for dinner. Wei, keep your sister company." "Understood, Mom." Qiao Wei stood up with a smile and asked Qiao Xian to leave. Qiao Xian bid farewell to the two ladies and followed Qiao Wei out. As they walked out of the yard, Qiao Wei scrutinized her from head to toe and snorted. "You should consider yourself fortunate that Madame Tang is willing to teach you, yet you remain so aloof. What's with the airs you're putting on?" Qiao Xian replied, "Sister, your concern for me touches my heart. I'm deeply moved. Chapter 895. Evil Intentions in Val. Siamikronim, stop being so strange. You just don't know how to appreciate kindness. Rather than getting angry, Xiao Xian smiled calmly. Elder Aunt Yuezheng has already done your investigation for me. Besides, the Xie family is also present, and young Nyaster Xie will be providing guidance to my husband. I don't need to do anything further. Xiao Wei. How irritating. Xiao Xian had struck right at her heart. Xiao Wei simply couldn't understand or accept that Xiao Xian was such a detestable woman. Why did First Madam favor her so much? Xiao Wei glared at Xiao Xian and coldly remarked, "Aren't you curious about who Madame Tang is?" Xiao Xian had also speculated that Madame Tang was no ordinary person, and there might be some connection between them. However, she couldn't quite grasp the situation. Wasn't she curious? No. Should she ask Qiao Wei or Madame Qiao? That was unlikely. If they didn't want to reveal the truth, she wouldn't be able to do anything about it. If that was the case, she didn't need to take any further action. Sooner or later, they would disclose the information to her, as she was here. But Xiao Xian had not expected that Qiao Wei could not help but ask. Xiao Xian was amused inwardly. She threw a look at her. It is just a guest, what am I curious about? Xiao Wei burst into laughter, looking very proud. You are right. Having said that, she left angrily. She was not going to speak with Xiao Xian. She and Xiao Xian did not get on well with each other, and she was worried that she would get annoyed by Xiao Xian if she stayed any longer. Xiao Xian did not care. She went back to her own yard to take a break. The servants always had some ways to find out information, so Xiao Xian gave Li Xia some money and asked her to go shopping and find out who Madame Tang was. Soon Li Xia returned. Madame Tang is here with her son County Magistrate Yang from Changlin County. It seems that County Magistrate Yang has some business to discuss with Officer Qiao, so Madame Qiao invites her over as a guest. Xiao Xian's heart skipped a beat. So that was the case. Wasn't County Magistrate Yang the original host's fiancé? Madame Tang was the ex-mother-in-law of the original host. It was no wonder that when she walked into the room and met Madame Tang felt uncomfortable whilst Madame Qiao and the maids and aunts from the Qiao family were all looking at her strangely. It was no wonder that Xiao Wei was taking pleasure in her misfortune. This mother and daughter were so evil and horrible. If Shao Yinduan did not trust Xiao Xian, and if Shao Yinduan was narrow-minded and conceited, then he would definitely hate Xiao Xian. The moment they started to hate each other, they would always have the chance to take out the anger on her and mock her. Then Xiao Xian would never be able to get through this mental barrier in her life. It was not only Madame Tang who was here, but also her son, Xiao Xian's ex-fiancé, County Magistrate Yang was here too. Xiao Xian was going to stay here for 2 more days. She had not met County Magistrate Yang during the past 2 days, but that seemed like a bad thing for Shao Yinduan. It was hard to say what the rumor would be spread around. The biggest problem was that it was difficult to make it clear. That was something that could not be explained, and the more one tried to explain, the more suspicious it would seem. As long as Shao Yinduan got suspicious, Madame Qiao would have achieved her purpose. Xiao Xian had no idea if it was Madame Qiao's idea or her father's. But even if her father was not involved, he must have approved of it, right? Chapter 896. Ex-mother-in-laws in Val. Siamikronim Xiao Xian sneered. Neither of them was up to any good. Xiao Xian had never mentioned anything about her ex-fiancé, so Li Xia had no idea either about what was going in her mind right now. But now Xiao Xian decided to tell her the truth. Because even if she did not say a thing, Li Xia would soon know about it. Li Xia, do you know who Madame Tang and her son are? I don't know. Li Xia was confused. What did her miss mean? Xiao Xian smiled. County Magistrate Yang is my ex-fiancé. That is to say, if County Magistrate Yang and I had not broken off the engagement, Madame Tang would have been my mother-in-law. What should we do? Miss, County Magistrate Yang is here too. What if fifth young master misunderstands us? Li Xia got anxious instantly. Look, even if Li Xia was just a maid, she still understood the pros and cons. We are here and can't leave so easily. Also, what is there to be afraid of? But I know what is going on, and one have to do something about it. Go to Mingren Tang Clinic and tell Manager Qin about this, and ask him to get someone to Shouting Village to tell my husband about it, too. Okay, I will do that now. Very good. No one stopped Qiao Xian when she asked Li Xia to go out and buy stuff for her. Soon Li Xia arrived at Mingren Tang and passed on Qiao Xian's message. Manager Qin, who had been hoping for Qiao Xian and the Shao family to provide him with quality herbs, was taken aback when he heard the words. He couldn't help but curse Madame Qiao for her wickedness. Don't worry, Miss Li Xia. I will go up to Shouting Village now. I will go there personally. The fewer people who knew about this, the better. There would be some confusion when the message was passed around, so he might as well go there personally. Li Xia thanked him and replied to Qiao Xian. What Qiao Xian had not expected was that Lu Yan would have sneakily told her who Madame Tang was. Shao Yunduan let out a sigh of relief when he heard the news in the intermediate of Shouting Village. Shao Yunduan thanked Manager Qin with a smile, which surprised Manager Qin. But seeing that Shao Yunduan trusted Qiao Xian, Manager Qin let out a sigh of relief. He had a very good impression of Qiao Xian, and he admired her deeply. So he hoped that she and Shao Yunduan could get on well. Shao Yunduan did not seem so bothered. The unknown should have been the scariest thing. When he knew what was going on, he would not have to worry a thing anymore. He was not going to suspect Qiao Xian because of this. Qiao Xian had never met her ex-fiancé who had been engaged with her, and she was already married to Shao Yunduan himself. She treated him and his family so well, and he could see that clearly. So how foolish he would have been to suspect Qiao Xian and hurt her just because Madame Qiao tried to sow discord? He could not bear to do that. He was solely concerned about Qiao Xian's well-being, and didn't want her to suffer any harm. If that was Madame Qiao's intention, he believed she couldn't harm him or Qiao Xian. In his perspective, he wasn't even a significant presence. He was just an ex-fiancé whom Qiao Xian had never met. How could she possibly have any feelings for him? It was a ridiculous notion. Nevertheless, Shao Yunduan made up his mind to bring Qiao Xian back home the next day. She was his wife after all. In the backyard of the government office, Qiao Xian attended the banquet alongside Madame Tang and County Magistrate Yang. As nobody had introduced Madame Tang and her son to Qiao Xian, she chose to feign ignorance about the matter. Chapter 897, Mrs. Tang's Displeasures and Val. Xiaomicron County Magistrate Yang discreetly assessed Qiao Xian. She noticed his gaze but chose not to respond. He was a stranger to her. As the men and women took their seats, County Magistrate Qiao exchanged greetings with County Magistrate Yang through the screen, while Madame Qiao greeted Madame Tang alongside Ojao Xian. Once the banquet began, Madame Qiao wore a bright smile and welcomed their guests warmly. Madame Tang reciprocated the greetings, but avoided direct eye contact with Qiao Xian. Occasionally, their eyes met briefly before Madame Tang looked away. Suddenly, Madame Qiao let out a sigh and glanced at Qiao Xian as she spoke to Madame Tang with a smile. Our old master will be transferred back to the capital in a few months. It may be challenging for our families to meet again, which is why he believes it's important to treat Madame Tang and Officer Yang well before we depart. After all, we could have become relatives. Unfortunately, it is Xian who has not been fortunate enough to have a promising young man like Officer Yang and a kind mother-in-law like Madame Tang. Upon hearing Madame Qiao's words, Madame Tang felt a slight sense of relief. She smiled and replied, "That is all in the past, Madame Qiao. There is no need to mention it anymore." Madame Qiao continued with a smile. "You're right, we should not dwell on the past. It was an unexpected turn of events, but I'm glad old master and I are reassured. Even if we can't become in-laws, we can still get to know each other. Perhaps when Officer Yang is promoted to the capital in the future, we can develop a closer relationship." Having an additional friend meant having another connection within the court. No one would willingly offend their peers, unless it was absolutely necessary. Madame Tang was well aware of this, so she quickly engaged in a friendly conversation with Madame Obo. Initially, Madame Tang did not hold a high opinion of Qiao Xian, her son's former fiancé, after he passed the imperial examination. However, her son had performed exceptionally well and received a promotion the following year. It was a promising future, a rare achievement. He was still very young. If it weren't for this troublesome marriage alliance, her son could have been chosen by noble ladies in the capital and become the son-in-law of a prestigious family, propelling him to even greater heights in the capital. Although becoming the head of a county at such a young age was already impressive, wouldn't it be better for him to have an even brighter future? Her son was a top student, young and handsome. When Madame Qiao sent a letter stating that something had occurred, leading to the annulment of the engagement between Obo Xian and her family, Madame Tang was overjoyed. When she heard that Qiao Xian had become involved with a poor girl from the countryside and had her reputation tarnished, Madame Tang found even greater satisfaction, considering it as her revenge. She believed that it was Qiao Xian who had ruined her son's future, so she took pleasure in her misfortune. Madame Tang had anticipated that Qiao Xian would live a wretched life. However, to her surprise, upon Madame Qiao's invitation, Qiao Xian appeared remarkably beautiful and graceful. Furthermore, her impoverished husband, who was a cultivated talent, was preparing for the intermediate examination. Soon, they would be taking the examination in the capital. Well, upon their first meeting, Madame Tang experienced a mix of complex and uneasy emotions. However, Madame Tang had forgotten a crucial detail. When her son and Qiao Xian were engaged, she had already lost her husband. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.